Don't you ever give up. Do you understand? Ever. If I wasn't rough, I'd come out, Stephen, and just, do your washing and just be there.
It's the worst day I've ever had in my life. I remember crying my eyes out thinking what a bad son I've been and what worry I've put her through. The left aligned with the terrorists and the jihadists. So what you're seeing on these Hamas demonstrations, okay? You're seeing the communists and Marxists, they're all joined with the Islamists, they're all friends all of a sudden. And the far right, the Nazis, they all come together. They all hate Jews. Hamas, in their political manifesto, said the final day of judgment does not come till every Jew is dead. How do you negotiate with that?
Are you funded by Mossad?
Mossad, if you're watching, give me some money, man. I don't want Britain to look like Saudi Arabia. I am not saying every Muslim's a problem. Okay? I don't want to deport Muslims from the UK. If you're inciting violence and you're being a racist, yes, you deserve to be punished by the law. The government, Piers Morgan sat on TV and said that I had organised and instigated attacks against mosques in the recent riots. No evidence of that, no proof of that. I'd called for calm, told people to put down the bricks. You are within your rights to criticise Islam, to look at the teachings of Muhammad. You just said I'm a racist. You know I'm not a racist.
Are you a racist?
You can't talk against vaccines. You can't talk against transgenderism. They're not working when they come in.
Many immigrants are working.
No, we see that many Muslim immigrants are not working. I went with my Ghanaian mate and I put a burqa on, a full niqab. Yeah?
Shut up.
I swear to God. And I just went, phew, and the whole room just went, what the f***?
Many Muslims who are peaceful, who do want to integrate with this country. What message would you have for them?
Unfortunately, the drug issue, again, ever took drugs? Tell the truth.
Do you think you might be on the psychopathy spectrum?
Am I a psychopath?
Tommy Robinson, welcome to the show.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Bloody hell. Why is Tommy Robinson on the run?
Why not? It's nice weather here.
Yeah. Where are we?
We are, no, I don't want to say where we are, but we, am I on the run? I face prison when I return to the UK. In fact, I'll be honest, I don't know what I face when I return to the UK. What we've seen, the tyrannical measures of the government have weaponised the judiciary and the media in the last 4 weeks after the riots, as they described them across the country, putting people in jail for memes, putting people in jail for saying, Allah, who the fuck is Allah? One lad got 18 months. Putting a lad in jail for saying, whose streets are streets? He got 2 years, 8 months for saying that. Whose streets are streets? We've seen a total attack on the British public. That's what, there has been trouble. There has been some people who are justifiably been put in jail, but there's also been an attack on freedom of speech. There's been an attempt by the government to intimidate the country into silence over their failures.
It's interesting about the freedom of speech, because I don't know where I stand, because some of them, I thought that, and they've looked up and they've actually been saying, let's go burn the mosque. Where do you stand on that? Should we be able to say that?
No, you shouldn't be able to say no. Any incitement to violence, we have strict laws. Incitement to hatred, incitement to violence. We don't need any more censorship. We already have laws in place that have been in place for a decade to prevent incitement to violence or incitement to racism, any of these things. If you're inciting violence and you're being a racist, yes, you deserve to be punished by the law, okay? But many of the cases we've looked at haven't. For example, one lad who got sent to prison for sharing memes, one of the memes he shared was men getting off a boat and running onto a beach, obviously Islamic men coming into this country, and he said, what about when it lands on your doorstep? The other meme he shared was jihadists on Westminster Bridge with knives. Well, we've seen jihadists on Westminster Bridge with knives. Yeah?
Ricky Gervais has made that sort of joke as well on stage. He said a lot of lads coming in, aren't they? A lot of the lads, these refugees and migrants, all the lads coming over. Isn't that nice? And he's made that same joke. Imagine Gervais being arrested.
Well, they won't go for the high profile ones. Like they won't go for, who's the Lord of the Rings lady?
Who's the Lord of the Rings lady?
No, not Lord,
Harry Potter?
Harry Potter lady, sorry.
Who's that?
Rowling.
J.K. Rowling. I was thinking of a character.
So J.K. Rowling's come out and already breached the laws that they brought in place, but these laws are to intimidate the wider public, and they'll use them when they want to use them, against who they want to use them against. And what we've seen in the recent trials was that most of the people pled guilty to crimes they hadn't committed because they were intimidated. I'm making a documentary now. We've interviewed families, we've interviewed the mothers, the wives of these men. One gentleman who said, whose streets are streets, whilst waving his England flag. When they sat him down in an interview, they showed him a picture of his wife at their demonstration and said, either you hold your hands up, basically, or we're going to nick her. He's got a newborn baby. We'll go and arrest her. Yeah. So he held his hands up. They give him 2 years, 8 months.
What is behind this? Why are they going around? Why do they want to curb free speech so much?
Because if we're allowed free speech and we're allowed non-censorship on platforms like X, the public get to see the government's failures and policy failures. For example, there were troubles at the hotel in Tamworth. What they don't tell you is there's been repeated incidents of children being approached by the migrants in the hotel in Tamworth. A migrant left the hotel in Tamworth and raped an English woman. They don't talk about that. Yeah. So they want you to believe that these people are out on the streets and they're angry because they're far right. Whereas in reality, I've researched and found 10 migrants who have been placed in hotels who have gone on to rape English women. Okay, so many circumstances. One, what they don't tell you, there was trouble in Hartlepool, and all the newspapers called them far right. The Keir Starmer calls them far right. A migrant who we paid for to come into this country, we housed him, we clothed him. He left the hotel in Hartlepool. He pulled out a knife and stabbed a British man to death walking down the street for Gaza. His words were, it was a terrorist attack. You probably didn't read about it because they suppress a lot of these things. Any crime. So incidents like this, and not just like this, why were the people in Bournemouth protesting? Well, maybe, Keir, because you allowed a migrant to go into school. He said he was 14. You put him in school at 14 years old. And there was questions about his age from the school as well, and from parents. He went on to sexually harass girls in the school. He went on to chase another pupil with a knife in the school. It turns out, because he then goes into the town centre a year or two later, and he stabs a Royal Marine to death. Now, when the Home Office do their investigation into this one migrant, we find out that he shot 2 people dead with an AK-47 on the way to Great Britain in Serbia. So he's a murderer and we find out he was 20 years old, not 14. So a murdering adult migrant criminal you put into school in Bournemouth. Yeah? You housed him in school. Again, we paid for him. We housed him. We clothed him. We fed him. He went on to murder a Royal Marine, a gentleman's only son. So that family are probably pretty angry, Keir, with the Home Office, as are the entire community and the town, Keir. And then how many rapes have we had by migrants on Bournemouth, in the beach, sexually assaulting girls in the sea? So people are angry, not because Tommy Robinson, they're angry. And again, if you've got your computer there, let's do it. Put in...
Don't have internet.
Okay, migrant rape Leeds, if you're watching this. I bet it'll bring up a woman who went jogging who was raped by a refugee. If you want to pick any city in this country, I'm going to show you, we're going to go through this on a new film. Pick any city. Put in refugee rape. It'll bring up a refugee that raped someone.
Do you think part of the issue might be that we've got an aging population? We can't support the older people. They need to do something. So they have to bring in more younger people from abroad. And the alternative would be to encourage people to have more children and have larger families, people who are already here. But they have to bring people in then to be able to support the economy. And they don't want to have to deal with the issues that you're describing right now. They just want to go, no, don't think about it. That's why they're curbing free speech.
I think that if this argument that I heard Angela Merkel try and argue, they're not working when they come in. They're reliant on the state, as are their children.
Many immigrants are working.
No, we see that many Muslim immigrants are not working. Okay, 50% of the women on benefits. We see when you look at the statistics are there for us to look at. If that was the argument, bring in Filipinos. Okay, bring in Hindus, bring in Sikhs. If this was the argument, Sikh community have come to this country as migrants. They're the biggest proportion of house owners, the biggest proportion of business owners, the biggest proportion of contributors to society. They're a success story. Yeah? If your argument was this, then bring in a community that will integrate, assimilate, still be proud to be Sikh, still be religious, but accommodate Britain and love Britain, but rather than declare war on it. Whereas what we're seeing is, say, for example, Afghani migrants. Again, we look at this in the film. Any success story, so BBC Yorkshire run a success story on this Afghan migrant who's the perfect migrant. He's joined the local cricket team. Wow, great, yeah? He's brilliant. He went on to rape a woman. Yeah, these are your success stories. Do you know what BBC then did? Which, too late, because we've archived your stories, just delete the story. And they gave us another story in Newcastle with another great migrant. Oh, he's a great migrant. Look, he was persecuted in his country. Really? He led the grooming gang in Newcastle. Yeah, your refugees, and this is to Keir Starmer and to any politicians that want to label these people as far right. They're angry because of your policy failures. You have brought people into their towns and cities. And those people that you've brought in, and a judge condemned one of the rioters. A judge condemned him because he said, I don't want my taxpayer money going to house these rapists across our country. And he was condemned as a bigot. Well, what he's saying is right. Our taxpayer money, every one of you watching this is taxpayers' money, is going to accommodate, facilitate and house men who, many of them have declared war on this nation. Many of them will not integrate or assimilate. Many of them are not here to integrate or assimilate. They're here to dominate. Okay, the aggression that people are seeing with their own eyes in their own towns and cities, it's there for everyone to see. And it's like, look, our government have managed to. People took to the streets in most towns and cities, many towns and cities, out of fear, out of concern. Women fearful for their daughters, fathers fearful for their daughters. The government haven't once addressed any of the issues. They haven't even spoke about the issues. They haven't spoke about migration. They haven't spoke about the fact that all the hotels are full. They haven't even looked now. You're cutting all the energy or the heating for old age pensioners while sending £8 billion to Africa for climate change.
But before we go more into Islam and the issues that we face, I think it's important to address the many Muslims, and I've heard you speak about this as well, who are peaceful, who do want to integrate with this country. What message would you have for them?
Unfortunately, they're irrelevant in the discussions we're talking about. We're 40,000 Muslims on a terror watch list in the UK. Yeah? What are the majority of the peaceful Muslims doing about it? What did they do about the grooming scandal?
But what can they do?
Well, what did they do about the grooming scandal? Not one of them reported it. Not one single incident.
But they'll be killed.
That's the problem because of Islam.
But I'm just wondering if you have empathy for those.
I have empathy for Muslims who want freedom. I believe every Muslim child born in this country should have freedom. We have 55,000 British Muslim girls who have had their genitals mutilated. 55,000. They should be protected by British law. They haven't been. They've been failed by British law. I wish for every person in Britain to experience true freedom. A Muslim girl doesn't get to experience true freedom because she'll be killed. Okay, probably by a mum and probably by a dad and her uncle, many times. Yeah. So I understand, and I can speak of this from experience growing up in Luton. Yes, I have many Muslims that I grew up with who are wonderful people and great lads, great families. But they're irrelevant in stopping this problem because they're not even allowed to talk about the problem because under Islamic scripture, they can't side with a non-Muslim over a Muslim, which, and if anyone wants to look this up, it's the reason we had grooming scandals in every town and city. We had 1,000 victims in Telford alone. 5 have been murdered in Telford. Rotherham had 1,000. If we just look at these 2 towns, Rotherham had 1,400 victims. How many Muslims in that town reported to the authorities or to the police that they knew their colleagues, their uncles, their brothers, their cousins were raping kids? Not one in the whole country. Not one single case of a Muslim going to the police and reporting these gangs. Not one.
Well, as I say, it's a risk. I mean, I remember speaking to Yasmin Mohammed, and we were talking about the difference between Jews and Muslims because you get a lot of atheist Jews. You get a lot of Jews who don't believe in the scriptures and things like that. And I said, but aren't there atheist Muslims? And she said, that's a dead Muslim.
She's 100% right. Yeah, that's a Muslim who... Well, not. I feel so badly for, say, the people who leave Islam or don't actually believe in it. Because they're trapped. Like I can speak, and I have absolute admiration for ex-Muslims who have left Islam, because whatever I've done in my life, I've spoke a lot, of course, controversy, of course, my family problems, but my family have never isolated me. If a Muslim comes out and says, I don't believe in this, they're kicked from the family, the community, everything they've grown up in, their whole world is just gone. So I really feel and admire the bravery of the ex-Muslims. Do you know, and I'll give you a story. I was in a village outside of Luton. Like I'm walking out of the co-op and this woman said, oh my God, Tommy. And there's an Asian girl. I said, yeah. She goes, please come back to my house. Please, please. I only live up here. Please come back to my house. And I was thinking, oh, this is random. Yeah. What's happening here? So I said, what's going on? She goes, please. She's been hiding there for 10 years. She's from the next town up. Yeah. So I went back to her house where she had her boyfriend who was an English lad. And she said, Tommy, I follow everything you're doing, man. I was brought up a Muslim. I brought up in this town, which is 10 minutes from Luton. I've been hiding here for 10 years. My family will kill me. Yeah? Where's the support mechanisms for ex-Muslims? Where's the safe houses for ex-Muslims? Where's the government strategy to save people? We have government well-funded strategies to save people who get involved in far-right politics. Yeah. They get safe houses. They can get new identities, yeah, to get them out of these groups. What about these lot who are being killed? There's more cases of honour killings and people living in fear and apostates being murdered. The punishment to leave Islam is death. But again, to stress the point which I know you started with, I am not saying every Muslim's a problem, okay? I don't want to deport Muslims from the UK. I have a problem with the teachings of Islam. I think they need to be addressed. I separate the people who follow Islam from Islam. If you hate an individual person, then it's wrong to hate individual people. But you are you are within your rights to criticize Islam, to look at the teachings of Muhammad, to talk and have a discussion about who Muhammad was. We need to have that discussion. If we've got 4 million people in Great Britain who believe he's perfect, we need to know who that man was. And he wasn't Jesus. And he didn't say turn the other cheek, okay? That's where we get the problems from. So
it's important. The reason I asked, though, about the maybe secular Muslims or Muslims who don't agree with a lot of this stuff is because I think many might be watching. And they want to feel that they're maybe embraced by you.
They're embraced by me, but look, I don't want to be, I may seem brash saying that when I say they're irrelevant, the majority of Germans weren't Nazis. I think they took power at 10%.
Is that right?
I believe 10%. So what did the majority, were they relevant? They weren't relevant, were they? Like, people didn't separate them. It's like they're not stopping it. So we cannot, as a country, sit and expect or rely on the moderates in that community to deal with this problem. We have to deal with it. The moderates in the community are not going to stop the Islamization of Great Britain. Okay, the money, the funding from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, from the Muslim Brotherhood, all these groups which are growing and with a lot of people have seen, especially since October 7th, the power and influence they have on the next generation. We can't rely on the moderates. And I do, and again, I will say, because I've met some of the best people I've met in my life have been Muslim. Yeah? Some wonderful, and in fact, people only get to see the negative things that happen in the street with me. In my day-to-day, when I'm in England, I have some brilliant conversations with Muslims, who don't, and people probably see me getting shown hate or violence. That's not the majority. It's not even a 10%.
Yeah. That's good to hear, though. That's good to know. And
I have some in fact, Muslims per se, up until the government tried to put a target on me to say I'd instigated attacks against mosques, things had settled down with the Muslim community massively for me.
Instigated attacks against mosques? Sorry.
Yeah, the government, Piers Morgan sat on TV and said that I had organised and instigated attacks against mosques in the recent riots. No evidence of that, no proof of that. In fact, the evidence and the proof shows that I'd called for calm, told people to put down the bricks, take the balaclavas off, stop the violence. Everything I'd said had been against violence, but the government just wanted to use their propaganda of their media to tell the entire world that I was the man behind the mosque sitting on my sunbed.
Did you repost, as many people did, the allegations that it was a Muslim who had done the stabbings?
No, I didn't. I didn't. Again, they said I did. Yeah. And again, I just use ChatGPT and ask them, sit and do ChatGPT and say, did Tommy Robinson ever do this? And they come out and say no.
I did use ChatGPT in researching this because I looked up, is Tommy Robinson a racist? Now, I grew up because I wanted to find anything. I grew up and you were Voldemort, for anyone who doesn't know, it's Harry Potter reference, but you were like the worst name ever that anyone could ever have. And it wasn't even a conversation to be had. It was just like, well, that guy's the bad guy. There's been a change, obviously, recently in public perception of you. But are you a racist?
I'm an anti-racist, always have been. I'm from Luton Town, okay? It was impossible. I'd never seen racism. I've seen religious tensions, but if you were in Luton Town and say a white lad made a racist comment, it'd get banged out by other white lads. Growing up.
That can't always be right. There must have been some racist people.
They're not showing it in Luton. In fact, like we have this discussion in my school group chat. I'm in a school group chat. Okay, it's Putridge 1999. I comment on it all the time. We had a bit of a fallout within the group chat over Black Lives Matter, when Black Lives Matter hit off. It was difficult to have an open discussion. In fact, I realised how well Muslims take criticism in comparison when I tried to talk against Black Lives Matter. I thought, you know what? Jesus, I've been hammering Islam for years. Per se, the majority of Muslims say, right, Tommy, when I see them, and their lads as well. You'd be surprised by the reaction I received by many Muslims. I had Muslims even, I walked through London with recently, he was shocked. I was in London, I come out, I was probably stopped by 3 Muslims. They embraced me. What's going on, Tommy, man? And I have them say, I don't agree with you. I have someone come up to me, I had some big gang lads in Luton, big lads walk through town, I thought, here we go. He come over, he put his hand out, he squeezed my hand, he goes, I don't like you at all, Tommy. I respect you. I respect you. You stand for what you believe in. So I don't believe the Muslim community know I'm right. They know I'm right in what I'm saying. When I talk about Islam, they know I'm right. They know I've assessed Islam. I understand what it is. I understand the power of the ideology. I understand the brotherhood of it. I understand the dominant nature of it, the supremacy of it. So there's no confrontation to have with me. I'm saying what it is.
I don't want to labour the point, but I mean, there were some racist people. I think that the idea of racism is exaggerated in this country, this idea that there's so many racists. But even if just 1% of the society is psychopaths, or, there must have some people who are
Were there racists in the English Defence League? Yes.
Yeah.
Was it a racist organisation? No. There was golfers in the English Defence League. It wasn't a golf society. So are there racists in the Metropolitan Police Force? Yes. Is it a racist organisation? No. Are there racists in the Labour Party? Far more than there were in the English Defence League. For the Labour Party, I'd say it's the most racist political organisation there is, the most anti-Semitic, full of hate political party we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Far worse than the BNP, in my eyes, the Labour Party.
Well, those were the two that were held by an independent assessor to have been racist, BNP and Labour Party.
Meant, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I know.
But the BNP, it's like the Labour Party.
Labour and BNP, Nick Griffin and Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Jeremy Corbyn's far more dangerous than Nick Griffin.
Yeah, well, because no one takes Griffin seriously.
No. Nick Griffin's never been censored on any social media. Nick Griffin, who is an out-and-out Nazi, an out-and-out white supremacist, an out-and-out Jew hater, an out-and-out all the things that he's open about it. Yeah?
He's what people think you are.
No, he's what the media tried to make me. He's what the media, there's no evidence to ever, in fact, from the start of my activism, from our very first demonstrations, we had banners, black and white unite. Muslim, no problem. Extremist Muslim, big problem. National Front, go to hell. We had Islamic Extreme, on the first ever United People of Luton rally, we had National Front scum go to hell. We chased the National Front out of our town when they turned up. Luton's football hooligan demographic, which is what we were part of, has always been very diverse. Very diverse. The men I aspired growing up to, looking up to were dreadlock Rasta, respected men in the town. Luton has never had that. So I'm not from a predominantly white area or a predominantly white city. I'm from a very diverse city, and most of the people I love aren't white. But that does, and most of the lads I know, so I've had a big experience here, they're English. Yeah, and now I've got people telling me they're not English when I've started my movement, and I'm going around the country and like, he's not English, he's black. Yes, he fucking is English. Yeah, he is English, and he loves England, and he loves Britain. I've got black lads that have joined the Royal Marines. What are you saying that they've got to go? So I have all this with the FNATs. The FNATs hate me. The ethno-nationalists hate me. I'm a race traitor. I'm a Zionist. I'm all these different things.
I spoke at the beginning about when I grew up, Tommy Robinson's the worst word or name you can possibly hear. Have you noticed what I think a lot of people have noticed in just the last few years, particularly I think it's heating up the last year, a complete change in the way the average person on the street perceives you?
Massive change. There's been a mass awakening.
What's going on?
COVID. See, when we got deplatformed, people celebrated it. They didn't even listen. I've never been arrested for hate crimes, racist crimes. I've never been questioned on them. Yeah. What I say is factual. Okay? You may not like it, but it's factual. If I talk about Islam, it's factual. Talk about Quran, it's factual. The problems in the UK, they're factual. Okay. I'm not inciting violence. Okay. So I've seen it was all right when we were getting deplatformed. People liked it, celebrated it. Then all of a sudden, COVID hit, and lots of people were questioning it. And then they saw scientists getting deplatformed.
Yeah.
They saw nurses getting deplatformed. And then they saw the lies, those people who joined the freedom movement, who wanted just to have freedom of their own body, yeah, they realised they're getting called far right. They're now called anti-vaxxers. They're now called conspiracy theorists. The attacks against them were the same as the attacks against us. Just you go against any of the mainstream narratives, they're attacking you. So, yeah, I think I've noticed massively. I get so many messages of people who hated me, and again, I don't look. As I said, I was 25 years old, and I was leading the biggest street protest movement the country's seen. I was young. I was angry, very angry about what was happening. Could we have conducted ourselves better? Yeah, of course we could. Would anyone have listened to us? No, they wouldn't. Would you know about the issues we were talking about? No, you wouldn't.
Do you think nowadays, in addition to the COVID issue that you raised, do you think it also might be a lot of the things that you predicted seem to be coming true? I mean, we perhaps when you were talking about this and the percentage of extreme Muslims in this country, in the UK, was still quite relatively low. People did, he must be a racist or whatever. Now it's risen quite fast.
Well, no, there was nothing special about me. I'd just grown up in Luton. So Luton was a blueprint for the rest of the country. When Islam becomes dominant, as I said, the peaceful ones become irrelevant, because they're not going to stop these groomers. They're not going to stop the terrorists. They're not going to report them.
But we still have to bring them on side as much as we can.
Yeah. I agree, but we can't rely on them. They're not going to solve the problem for us. We can't keep funding the Muslim groups. Like, it's insane. Muslims, when the grooming scandal hit, Muslim organisations, not non-Muslim organisations, there's a Sikh organisation called Sikh Awareness Society who have for 20 years, 30 years, longer than I have, they were on this grooming issue. They were travelling, they have sent, I think, 10 girls, they've relocated 10 girls abroad to save them. And they don't just deal with Sikh girls. They're a fabulous organisation. Look them up. In fact, the man who runs them, his name's Mohan Singh. I first went to a Luton Sikh temple to listen to him speak about grooming, and he carried an aura that I've never experienced. When I listened to him talk, I thought, wow, like, he's a religious man, and there was something very special about him and the way he spoke and the connection he had with everyone. And then I travelled the country, going to Hindu temples and Sikh temples to listen and learn about how they're tackling the grooming issue and what they're doing. And I remember the journalist asked me, I brought a journalist, and he said, what do you think of what's happening here? I said, it's absolutely brilliant for the Sikhs and for the Hindus. Who's doing this for us? Who's educating the white? Because in these temples, they have all the mums and the sisters and the daughters, and they're all sat down. And then they give them a seminar for 2 hours. And they show them, this is how they groom you. This is what to expect. This is how they operate. Yeah? So all the warning signs, the families can see the warning signs. No one's doing that for us. So I remember looking, thinking, this is great, but I felt so disheartened that the working class, the white working class, are still being targeted. There's no one helping us. And then when the grooming scandal come out, who did the government fund? They funded all the Muslim taxis, and they funded all the Muslim groups. They give them all government funding to report and tackle grooming. The Sikh groups or the other groups, they've never received any support in this. They do it through their own community donations. Now, Sikh awareness were viewed pretty much similar as English Fence League. Oh, you're blaming it on the Muslims because of historical problems in India. Yeah. But when the Rotherham scandal broke and the cat got out of the bag with the world and the media, people realised they were telling the truth. He weren't lying. Yeah. So all the things, as I said, every interview I've ever done will age well. Because I know I've only spoke truth to matter. I've only spoke fact. I've only spoke about what's going to happen and how it's going to happen.
What is going to? Because I look at. I mean, is it Iran and was it Lebanon? Are they?
They failed, didn't they? If you look at what happened, the Red Green Alliance, the alliance of the Islamists with the far left. When I say the far left, I'm not talking about the average person who's left wing, because I don't. Left wing politics healthy, right wing politics healthy. I think anyone you stop will share some parts of the left, some parts of the right, which unfortunately now you have to hate each other. Yeah. That's where we've come in society. You have to hate them, they have to hate you. But far left politics, the far left have aligned, and when I say the far left, the staunch communists and Marxists who wish to break the entire system to rebuild it. Yeah, they need to break the system. Now, well, who's going to align with them to break the system? The Islamists. Because they all want to break the system. They want to replace it with Sharia law, and they want a communist state. So as we saw in Lebanon, and history, why don't we learn from history?
Yeah, Iran as well.
Iran. So the left, so anyone listening, the left aligned with the terrorists and the jihadists, and they worked together to bring down the system, to break down the country. It's what you're seeing on these Hamas demonstrations, okay? You're seeing the communists and Marxists, they're all joined with the Islamists, they're all friends all of a sudden. And the far right, the Nazis, they all come together. They all hate Jews, so they're all together. They're all, like Nick Griffin sitting around a table with Muslim radicals now, all having a laugh at that, because they hate the Jews. So they're all coming together, and as they come together, as they did in Lebanon, as they did in Iran, they overthrow, and who gets killed first? The left. Yeah. They killed them all, you fucking morons. They're going to execute you. You're siding with people who despise you. Jihad is not just for Jews. Jihad's for every non-Muslim, including you lot. You communist, Marxist knobs. It's like, I just don't think, have you not looked at history? Have you not learned a single thing? There's 55 countries in the world, 45 countries in the world that Islam has come into as a minority, and then it's dominated and it's caused war. There's not one single country in our history that has peacefully coexisted. Ever. Why do you think Europe's going to be any different? You morons. Afghanistan, 99% of the Muslims in Afghanistan want Sharia law. What do you think? 100 of them come to the border and they leave it behind. They come into the country, as you'll see in our new documentary, and they bring those intolerant medieval views of women with them. Don't leave it. And then when you allow the funding to come from Saudi Arabia, Qatar are the biggest exporters of terrorism in the world. Qatar, who houses Hamas's leaders. Qatar, who sat there and it's given nearly £1 billion to Islamist radical organisations throughout Europe to grow the mindset of Islam, to take over. It's funded. I remember I went for Al Jazeera is the mouthpiece of Qatar. I went for an interview at Al Jazeera. To get into their building, you have to go through airport style security. Yeah, there was a terrorist attack the week before. And I sat down and said, you cheeky bastards. Yeah, you are causing all this terrorism, your country, your funding. You're doing all this and then you're sitting in here, your palace with all your security, while we're out walking the streets, waiting for the next jihad attack that you played your part in. They orchestrated, Iran, Qatar orchestrated the attacks on October 7th. They've orchestrated time and time again, jihad across Europe. And it's not going to stop. It goes up every year. As the Islamic demographic increases, the birth rate increases, the demographic, the open border immigration, the more Islam, the less freedom. And then we even make a decision. Do you want an Islamic Europe or do you want a Christian Europe? Do you want a Europe that looks a bit like it does now? What do you want Britain to look like? I don't want Britain to look like Saudi Arabia. I don't want to. And I will do everything in my power to awaken the public. I'm not saying I can stop it. I'm one man, but I can awaken people and make sure people understand what the future looks like. And I truthfully believe that if every British person understood truthfully what the future is going to look like for their children in a decade's time, there'd be a revolution tomorrow, a peaceful revolution. But there needs to be. There has to be a response to what we see. To what we're seeing is totally against the interests of the British public. It's against the interests of British people, as in the decisions our governments are making, the globalist decisions that they make, the open border mass immigration, the replacement of European people. It's totally, and again, all these conspiracy theorists. No, there's a 177-page United Nations document on population replacement. It's planned. They just tried to bat us all off as conspiracy theorists, thinking the majority of you won't take 2 minutes to research what they're doing. They're very open
but that
about
conspiracy in its traditional form, as far as I'm aware, the idea was that the Jews wanted to bring in Muslims to replace white people.
Now, that's the far right deep held belief,
which is insane, because if you know any Jews, that's the last thing they want to do.
Well, look at the Jews. So basically, you don't want the Jews to have Israel. Europe's being flooded. The Jews are the most persecuted people at the hands of Islam, because it's Saturday first, then Sunday, kill the Jews, then kill the Christians. So the Jews are, Mein Kampf, Hitler's book, is 7% Jew hatred. The Quran is 11, okay? That's before we even go into the life of Muhammad and what he had to say, other than the Quran, yeah? So, but I'd say it's the oligarchy, the elite. I wouldn't say it's the Jews, and I have this argument all the time, yeah? They're not all Jewish. Some of them are. Yeah, but they're not all Jewish. I looked at the voting patterns or the funding patterns of Hollywood, because people say the Jews is Hollywood. So 50% of Hollywood is Jewish. Yeah. But out of Hollywood, 98% of the people funded Democrats. So is it because they're Jews, or is it simply because the other half of Hollywood are pushing the same agenda, or is it because of their left-leaning views or their ideological view of what they want? I wouldn't say it's to do with Judaism. And I have this disagreement many times. I get called a race traitor, a Zionist. People make the allegation that I'm funded by Israel just because I don't hate Jews. Yeah, is the Israeli government perfect? No. Do I think the American government under Biden and Kamala Harris represents the interests of the American people? No. What was the most vaccinated country in the world? Israel. So they stuffed the vaccine in all their own people's arms. So I don't believe the representation of countries represents the people. I love the American people. I love the Jewish people of Israel when I went there. I love the British public. I differentiate those who are controlling us and those who are destroying our nations to the average person.
Since we're talking all about race, ethnicity and racism, I wanted to tell you a little bit about today's sponsor, MyHeritage. MyHeritage is the leading global service for family research and DNA testing. I've been a member for years, and it has 90 million members who trust it. It makes building your family tree simple and fun, and you can look up your entire family history. My brother isn't yet here, so look how easy it is to add him. You can search 20 billion historical documents on MyHeritage to find records of your family members. One really strange and beautiful thing was to see photos and information about my grandpa's grandparents. So they had come over from Ukraine. They were these strange, weird people I didn't really know very much about. So to be able to see photos actually of them was very odd for me and wonderful. And I had this intimate moment with my father, and we bonded over this, where he was able to see his dad's grandparents, these people who came over like that. So it was a really beautiful thing for us. You can even use MyHeritage's AI tech to colorize and repair these photos. So look how I've done that with this photo of my great-great-great-grandpa, or one of those greats. I've sort of messed that up. In today's crazy race-divided world, you need to know your family history. So start building your family tree by signing up for a 14-day free trial, or doing a thing with the QR code. That's grabbing the QR code here. That's MyHeritage. Just get the link in the description there below. You can see it on screen now as well, or scan the QR code.
Are you funded by Mossad?
Never had Mossad. If you're watching, give me some money, man. I'm currently okay. So I had this, and do you know what they say? They say that I was funded by Zionists. I worked for Rebel Media in 2015. What's that? Nearly a decade ago. Yeah? Rebel Media received funding from a gentleman called Bob Shulman. I've never met Bob Shulman, never had a discussion. He's a tech billionaire, apparently, from the United States. So he used to donate to Rebel Media. I work for Rebel Media. I got $5,000 or whatever a month, from Rebel Media. That's my wage. So do you receive money from advertisement on YouTube?
Yeah.
You're funded by the Jews. Because who owns YouTube? Two Jewish Zionists.
Isn't it?
So, yes.
They own-
To the Alphabet Company, but the two main men. So this is the argument to those people who say I'm funded by Jews because I receive money off Rebel Media. Anyone who receives any advertisement off of YouTube, you could say the same argument. Yeah,
Obviously, I agree. It's ridiculous.
it's ridiculous.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But have I've spoke up. So since my formation in the English Defence League, I remember growing up in Luton. I was a bit of a little shit when I was a kid, just a normal kid. Yeah. I remember there's a Jewish convent in Lily of Orthodox Jews. I remember we used to go over there as kids, and I remember going over there and we had flare guns and we were firing flares up in the sky. And my mate said, "My mum and dad would be so proud of me." I looked, I was like, "What?" My mum and dad would kill me if they knew I was over here. Yeah, we were trying to get chases, but we would try and get chases of everyone and anyone. Try and get chases as kids. You'd try and get people to chase you. Running around.
Oh, right.
He don't know. He's from a different upbringing. I'm looking at Richard Grannon from Liverpool. He knows what I'm talking about.
He's posher than he looks.
Yeah, okay. Kids go out and try and get chased. Yeah, kids you cause a bit of trouble and get a chase.
Grannon's a secret posho.
Is he?
Yeah.
We used to call it getting a chase as a kid. So you go out and you just have a laugh or you throw eggs and you get chased.
Yeah.
So we were down there and I looked at my mate and thought, I said, "What do you mean your mum would be proud of you? You're Jews." I was like, "Yeah. Your mum would kill me if I was down here causing trouble. Yeah, what do you mean your mum would be?" And then, because they hate the Jews. Yeah, he's a Muslim lad. Mum's a Muslim. So I was like, so I learned lots of things. Then there was Jews remembering the Holocaust in Luton. And this Al Mujahideen group, who I ended up confronting, the terrorist group, who we ended up confronting, they turned up in their hundreds. And the Jewish family had to lock himself inside the town hall. Yeah. And then they had to barricade the doors because all these radicals were trying to get to these Jewish families remembering the Holocaust. So I looked at all this. The main Islamic Jihadist centre is the Luton Islamic Centre. It used to be the synagogue. So I'd watched I'd seen it. I'd listened to mates I'd grown up with. I'd heard the anti-Semitism at school. I'd heard the Jew hatred. So when I started the English Defence League, and I remember seeing some Jews once, Orthodox Jews, walking through Luton with police. I'm driving through, I thought, well, that's weird. And I thought, they need police to walk with them because they couldn't walk through the town. They wouldn't be able to walk through town looking like that. Yeah. So all these things helped me. And then I looked at Israel. I looked at the 7-day war, 6-day war, whatever, the 7-day war. I looked at what the Islamic radicals who governed the country surrounding Israel said. They basically told the Jews, "We're taking your wives. When we win this war, your wives and daughters are ours. We're raping them." They told them. They made it public. "We're coming for your women as slaves." Because that's, so anyone who wants to know Islam, that's halal. Yeah, you're allowed to do that. So they're allowed to come in and take all the women as sexual slaves. So Israel was faced. And then I saw Israel has 2 million Arabs, 2 million Muslims in it, that can become part of government, that can become politicians. We keep hearing about this apartheid state. So I went to Israel. I looked at all this. I thought it's bullshit. Islam is a democracy surrounded by totalitarian, Sharia-driven shitholes. Yeah? How are you going to deal with that? How are you going to deal with that as a country? They want the Article 2 on the Hamas manifesto. So remember, Hamas is like the Labour Party. Not much difference, to be honest, yeah? But Hamas, in their political manifesto that got them elected by the majority of Gazans, said the final day of judgment does not come until every Jew is dead. Didn't say every Zionist, doesn't say every Zionist. This is in their manifesto. Every Jew is dead. How do you negotiate with that? And when they say the majority voted for Hamas, the rest of the population voted for Fatah. It's another terrorist group. What are you talking about? So how would you negotiate with that? What would you do? I know what I'd do. I know what I'd demand my government done. I know what I'd do. And in fact, they do everything. Like, you keep hearing about genocide. So I went to Israel and I spent time in Israel. And when I was in Israel, I paid young Muslims. I met young Muslims and I paid them to take me. So when you go to Israel, they have all, "Do not go past here." You know, you've got all big signs. Right. Dangerous. Don't go here. So I went to Israel and thought, that's where I want to go. Yeah? I want to go there. So I looked up this Fatah-controlled, terrorist-controlled refugee camp. And I met some young Arabs. They didn't know who I was. And I was with my mate from school, Dean, black lad. His parents from Jamaica. And he loved history. So I said, "Come with me. Let's go to Israel. Let's go see what it's about. Let's really go there." And we went there. And then I said, "Right, Dean, I've sorted it. We're going into the refugee camp. He's like, we're not. I said, he goes, bruv, I ain't coming to get killed. Like, I know you're mad, but I haven't come here for this shit. I said, bruv, listen to me. And I'm quite persuasive anyway. So I said, imagine we go there and we have a day in the camp and we spend all day there and we find out and we see imagine how fascinating it's going to be, blah, blah, blah. And we're in a taxi then. And I've done a little video and I said, right, I'm in the back of the car. The Muslims are in the front with my mate and he's sitting there going, what the f-? We had a massive argument first. I ain't come to do this. I said, well, I have. I'm going. So you're going to leave me go on my own? I'm going into that camp. I'm seeing what's... And then I've done a little video and I said, I'm in the back of a taxi. Yeah, we're in the back of a car and we're on the way into a terrorist-controlled refugee camp. Fucking man. I said, we're going to go see what's going on. And I'm in this camp and there's videos of us in this camp. And as we're walking around the camp, I'm playing football with the kids, man. And my heart bled for them as well. But the Muslim lad who got me in there didn't know who I was. And I kept saying to him, who's oppressing you? Expecting Israel, yeah? The Palestinian Authority. Who's the Palestinian Authority? I didn't know nothing. Who's the Palestinian Authority? They govern us. And he said, what you have to understand is, Stephen, and on the side of the walls of all the properties is the murals of the people who have left that camp, so the families. So when you're outside the house, there's a massive picture of this woman and she blew up a bus in Israel. Yeah? She was a suicide bomber. But this was her house. Yeah? So I found it all fascinating. And these are heroes to this camp. They're heroes. The children are being brought up to see these as martyrs. The children are being brought up. And then he corrected. So he said, the Palestinian Authority pay whoever, her family would have been paid for the rest of their life. Yeah. So whoever comes out of this camp and kills an Israeli. And I said, so anyone who lives here and goes kills a Jew in Israel, he said, no, he corrected me, not a Jew, an Israeli.
Wow.
I was like, they don't even have to kill a Jew. They can kill a Bedouin Muslim.
Yeah.
They still get the reward. So then I said to my mate, we're always told radicalisation in the UK is because of poverty. Look at these kids, man. They've got nothing, bro. I said, where's the park? There is no park. What do you mean there's no park? Yeah. And his words, we've had 2 times more money than Germany had after the World War. We could all have a villa. Yeah. We could all have a mansion. We will always be refugees because it benefits the Palestinian Authority for us to be refugees for the money to fund the war against the Jews. Yeah. And he sat and he's very open about it. And he didn't mention Israel once. And he said that the Palestinian Authority oppress us. We need free his words, never give money to free Palestine. Yeah. Never. We don't get it. And I'm going through and I'm thinking, hell, man, this is so interesting for me. And I looked at my mate, as we're in there all day and I'm playing football with the kids and the kids were lovely and they're all running around with toy guns and they've got nothing. I wanted to give them money. I said afterwards, it works. They bring politicians to these camps. They show them the squalor, the kids, the families. You want to help them, yeah? But you're not helping them. You're helping Hamas. You're helping the billionaire sat in Qatar. So as I've gone through all this, and then I said to my mate as we're walking around, I said, what do you reckon? He goes, great, man, because we was in there. And then there was some Bedouin, they had machine guns. So I've got at this time, I'm wearing a I Love Israel t-shirt. It's fucking mad. I'm wearing an I Love Israel t-shirt. And I went over and I'm asking them all, Trump had just got elected. So that's when it was. Trump had just got elected. I said, lads, what do you think about, they just think I'm a tourist, want to know question. What do you think about Trump's election? And they said, yes, we need strong man. America must be strong man. I was like, really, I didn't expect that either. And everywhere I went, I was on the Golan Heights and the war's going off, so you can see the bombs. Yeah, I'm on the Golan Heights. And there's argument about the Golan Heights because Israel took control of the Golan Heights because it's up high. And the Muslims were using it to barricade them. So they had to take control. But they've took control of the Golan Heights. And I said to this Muslim lad, what's it like living here in Israel for you? What's it like? He goes, I love it. It's okay. And I'm trying to push him to say some negative stuff, to get some negative stuff. And he looked at me and he said, you see over there? And the bombs are going off. He goes, where do you think I want to be? Over there. He goes, I pray 5 times a day. And I was asking him about Islam and in Israel. How is it for you in Israel? And everything I thought I knew, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. Yeah. And even down to, we get shown this big wall. I expected a prison. Gaza's a prison, an open-air prison. Got 5-star hotels. But I was expecting this big open-air prison. And they all the time on the news as I was growing up, whenever I heard about Palestine and the conflict, they show you this wall with turrets on, this big, massive wall. It's about 10 metres long. That wall is 10 metres long. There's no wall. There's no wall around it. There's about a 2 mile gap, and then there's fences, and there's a big border because we climbed there was an army turret. So I've gone to Israel. As I've gone in, as I said, I've walked the camp. I've done all this with this lad. I really liked him. I related with him more than anyone I met in that trip, the Jews. So I related with this Muslim lad. He just seemed like he could have been from Luton. And then when I sat down, when I got back to Israel, I put cameras on him. And I said to him, can I tell you who I am? I said, have you heard of the English Defence League? He said, yes. I said, my name's Tommy. I founded the English Defence League. And he looked furious. He looked furious, but we had already, by that point, we'd had a good day together. Yeah. And then, we got on really well. And he said, why? Why? I said, brother, I've just risked my life. Yeah. I'll be dead if they knew who I was in there. And I said, because I had to hear it from you. And what I've heard has totally shocked me. I had to hear your story as a Muslim in a refugee camp, 4th generation refugee. Your kids are going to be 5th. He said it. My kids will be 5th generation. Theirs will be 6th. Now, the only way out for him, that's what I said to my mate, Dean, like, I'd do anything for my kids, wouldn't you? Yeah? In a desperate situation. So the only way out for these refugees is to go kill an Israeli. Really? So then I viewed the whole conflict a bit different as well, because I'd always blamed it on jihad a lot. I've always said jihad is the sole reason. Then I realised these are mercenaries. Many of these men might not even believe in it, but their families are getting rescued by killing someone or attempting to kill someone. So all of that. And then we went up and we climbed up there's an army turret. There's on the border of the Gaza Strip. Yeah. There's army turrets, yeah? So we've gone up there. I was like, fuck, man. So we've gone through. And again, it says, don't go here, yeah? So we've climbed up this army turret and we've got a lens camera with the Muslim lad. Yeah? We're zooming in. And he said, there's Hamas, yeah? So they're in, like you see ISIS in all the flatbacks. So they're in flatback trucks doing their own border. So they've got their own border security for where Gaza Strip is, yeah? Right. So they're going up and down. And then they've stopped. And they're looking at us and we're looking at them. So I was like, he goes, they're looking at us. And I said, they're looking at us. I said, you wankers. I said, we're swearing at Hamas up on an army turret. And then the Israeli army come from everywhere. Boom. They come screeching in like, what the f*** are you doing? I said, we're swearing at Hamas. And they're like, you're going to get shot. Get down. And then when we get down, they grilled us like the Israeli army did.
They were angry at you.
Yeah, proper angry. I guess we've risked them. We've risked their safety as well.
True.
We're stupid. But it was a fascinating trip. I went to Israel with all these expectations. And of course there's problems. There's going to be problems. But I felt safe in Israel. Israel's a holiday resort. And go Tel Aviv, man.
It's nice.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. And felt safe the whole time. Yeah. I felt safe the whole time.
You're not being paid by the Israeli Tourist Board.
No. That's why but this is what people say.
I know.
People say it. I was like, and anyone who criticised me on it said, have you been there? Have you ever spoke to a Muslim that lives in Israel? Because there's 2 million of them. Have you ever been to a refugee camp? Do you even know what you're talking about? What are you talking about?
I get
propaganda, proper Iranian proxy army on our streets. You're pushing the propaganda of Iran, of Qatar, of Hezbollah, of Hamas. Look at the money they have. So anyone who's criticised me, I was like, you haven't been there, so shut up.
I get the same thing, told that I'm being backed by whoever, and I react the same way as you. Like, well, if they want to give me some money, I could do with it, to be honest.
I'm in court. I've got a 130 grand bill on the 28th, 29th of October, so please.
The idea that Mossad would be so sloppy as to approach a couple of YouTubers who could easily just...
Well, do you know why they said it? Do you know why they said it about me? Because when I went to Israel, you can buy Mossad t-shirts.
Yeah,
so I bought a Mossad t-shirt from a tourist shop. When I went to New York, I bought I love New York Police Department t-shirt. Oh, I'm not in the New York Police Department, lads. Yeah, and if I was in Mossad, the Mossad t-shirt from a souvenir shop on the Golan Heights doesn't mean I'm in Mossad. And essentially, and at times, so I went with Luton football hooligans to Tottenham. Were playing Millwall years ago when I had the EDL. Tottenham were playing Millwall, and that's a massive game. They hadn't played each other for years. Yeah, so big rivalry. So I love my football. I went with Tottenham. And when I went there, people were saying, why the hell, because I was spotted there, obviously, why the hell was Tommy Robinson here? So I just put, because I'm Jewish. I'm just taking a piss.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Tottenham's a sort of Jewish identity club.
Jewish identity club. And then and then Nick Griffin was always saying I'm a Zionist. Now, so when I went to America this time, when I snuck into America, when I went to the conference, I wore I'm a Zionist badge. Oh, right. I didn't know what Zionist was at that time. And I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
For me, a Zionist means you believe in a homeland for the Jews. That's all it means. Yeah?
I'm a Zionist.
Yep. I'm a Zionist. I don't care. I believe the Jews can have a homeland. There's 55 Islamic nations. Why can't the Jews have one?
Yeah.
Why not? It's historically their land. I've done all the tours. I've done all the research. I went to the the new, where they building on the land. So you've got 7 families. They build them. These are why we can't have peace, apparently.
Outside the West Bank. Or
outside
in
the
the
West Bank. So I went there, yeah. I went there and I went onto these. And basically, you've got 8 or 9 families who have took a bit of desert and they've made it beautiful, okay? It's all greenery. It's like they've brought life to where there was nothing. That's why I went there. So I spent time on the camp. I saw everything when I was there. I went to look at every avenue, to every argument. And as I said, like, I risked my life to do it, to understand, to come back and understand. And do you know what fascinated me? There's about 1,000 young Arab Muslims. They're racing camels. And that's when I got and there's a geezer with a machine gun there. And I've got the I love Israel t-shirt. So I said, stop the car. So we stopped the car and I got out of the car and I went over to where, just to watch all these Arabs racing camels and that. There's all Jews sitting with their skull caps having a picnic, yeah? I thought, you couldn't do that in London. You couldn't do that in London. There was no animosity between the two groups or the people. There was none, yeah? A Jewish family with 1,000 young Muslims in London wouldn't sit in a picnic like that because they'd get grief, yeah? I guarantee you. So that it was very different. It works better in Israel.
I bet, yeah.
The Muslim Jew thing works better in the state of Israel than it does with thousands of young Muslims than it does in the UK.
Tell me about Andrew Tate, because did you grow up is he around the same age as you? Did you know him?
Andrew Tate's from Luton, my hometown. So Andrew Tate's from Luton as well. There must be something in the water of Luton.
Yeah.
Luton is such a town, man. What a bad town.
Seems like it, yeah.
Great town.
Stacey Dooley as well.
Stacey Dooley.
We can get onto her in a minute, but yeah, tell me about Andrew Tate.
Should we start with Stacey?
Do you want to start with Stacey? Why?
No, actually, I don't want her to come off.
You don't want to what?
I know Stacey very well.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
So, okay, well, let's talk about that. We can get onto Andrew Tate in a minute, because I saw your speech.
So Stacey went to do a documentary about Luton.
Yeah, and you mentioned that in your Oxford speech.
Yeah.
By the way, were you nervous at all doing that? I would have been shitting myself.
I was shitting myself.
So tell me a bit about Stacey Dooley. The reason Stacey Dooley is important is because that documentary it was on BBC Three. It wasn't that long ago. Well, it was 2012, was it? I think.
Yeah, 2012. Height of the year, wasn't it?
Right, and that nowadays, I mean, I showed a friend the other day. I said, "Have you ever seen this?" And it was Stacey. I remember watching it at the time. Stacey goes through Luton, and she's basically being attacked and screamed at by extreme Muslims. And nowadays, BBC Three, BBC, Channel 4, not a million years.
Do you know what? I'm not going to even with Stacey, because I probably joked a bit earlier. Stacey's from Luton. She went to the school my ex-wife went to. I know her. I was best mates with her ex-boyfriend. I grew up with him. 2 of her ex-boyfriends.
Right.
I know her very well. So when she come to do the documentary, she come with the BBC producers. And we met in a hotel. I stood her up twice. I didn't turn up twice. And
sounds like you.
Sounds like me. It's because I thought my wife would be unhappy at me meeting up with Stacey.
Oh, really?
At the time. So that's why I didn't turn up.
Is that why?
Pussy whipped. So I didn't turn up. And then in the end, I thought, no, I need to tell the story. So when I met Stacey, she sat down with the producers. She said, Jax, I know you. You're not racist. I know that. I said, I know Stacey, yeah? And she goes, what's going on? Because she'd left Luton 3 years prior. And she got it. Stacey knows us all. She knows Luton. She knows the problems in Luton. She knows them. And I'm not going to... And then I had the Daily Mail about 2 years ago. You know when it blew up, when things blew up for her and she went on the top of...
Dancing thing.
Dancing on Ice.
Yeah.
Did she run off and had an affair, didn't she?
Did she?
She ran off with a bloke, I believe, yeah?
Okay.
Whatever, right? But I got a phone call. They were looking for me in Luton, the papers. I said, what do you want? And they had heard stories that they wished to run and they wanted me to confirm. And I said, you're trying to ruin her. You're trying to fucking ruin her. I said, I'm not participating in this at all. There's zero chance of me commenting. So I shouldn't even try. There's zero chance of me commenting on ruining that girl's life, which is what you're now intending to do. Fuck, I hate the media. I hate the media.
How does she, because she seems like a really nice person actually, but how did she sort of get away with doing that documentary back then? Was it just a different time? And she couldn't say stuff like that now, could she? That she's concerned about Islam?
No, she couldn't. The censorship's got worse, hasn't it? Look, the people who oppose us, you celebrate our censorship, you celebrate the attacks against us, the cancellation, losing the jobs. The goalposts are continually shifting in what you can and can't say. Started with open border immigration. You can't talk against vaccines. You can't talk against transgenderism. You can't talk about... So you may think you're on the right side of free speech now, but at some point you may find yourself on the wrong side. So long as we allow the authorities to dictate what we can and can't say. Yeah.
I'm pro-vaccines, but I respect your right to be able to speak against them if you're concerned about them.
Yeah, and ask questions. You don't even have to ask questions. You don't have to ask questions.
Yeah.
Because of my life, I know the system lies. I know the government lies. I know the stitch up it is. So
Full venue.
I know the media lies. If they tell me now it's raining, I'll stick my head out the door to check because they lie.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me now about Andrew Tate then. So what's his deal?
So Andrew Tate, my belief, Andrew Tate created a character. Okay. And I've watched him do it his whole life. I've watched him do it since no one knew who Andrew Tate was. Before he was Top G, he was Mr. Plenty. Before he was Mr. Plenty, he was someone else. He always tried this. He's a very clever man and a dedicated man. He became a world champion, boxing out of a gym in Luton called Storm Gym, where the man who I'd say created Andrew Tate is a man called Amir, a Bosnian Muslim lad. Very well respected. Some of my best friends are part of that gym. They're all non-Muslims. Everyone just has love for that man. Yeah. So he's meant to be a great man and a great mentor to men. I'd say he transformed Andrew Tate from a quiet kid to a world champion. Andrew Tate has always trolled the Luton public. He always used to go on Facebook and just wind everyone up. I used to watch it. Yeah? And I'd laugh my head off. And I see people biting and hating him. He didn't care. He was controversial before anyone knew he was Andrew Tate. He'd go on, it was Mother's Day. He said, what'd you do for Mother's Day, lads? Tell me what you all done for Mother's Day. If you bought your mum flowers, if you sent her chocolates, if you rang her up, said you love her, sent her a message, he said, you're a f***ing wank and you're a failure of a son. Yeah. He said, you know what I done? I said, Mum, how much do I earn a year? She said, 20 grand, 25 grand. He goes, I sent her 10 years wages. I said, 10 years off. He goes, you're all losers. Yeah. You should be like me. Yeah. And I'm crying my eyes out reading it. And I'm watching everyone go mental because he covered everything everyone had done. Yeah. He's just taking a piss.
He's baiting them. He likes it. He
loved it. Yeah. Right? Before he was Cobra Tate, he loved it. And then I've watched him talk and I know who he is and where he grew up and I know the circles he was in. I know he's never been involved in drugs or drug dealing, yeah, or on that level of street life. Yeah, I know he hasn't. But I've seen him talking about it. I thought, what were you doing, bruv? Like, why would you be doing that? But he was creating this persona of a character which would benefit him financially in the long run. So when you hear him making comments, even about women and girls and how much is true and how much isn't true, right? How much was to create a persona? Because remember, when he started, he was getting men who struggled with women to pay him to tell them how to be a man. So he's creating this big image of a man that sometimes, I'd say, was bravado. But a lot of what now he was saying is now being used against him. He sits and says he's a billionaire. We know he's not a billionaire. Yeah. We know he wasn't a billionaire. I said to my son, he's not a billionaire. Yeah. So if he's saying he's a billionaire and it's not true, and he's saying this and it's not true, but he has created a very successful character, which ended up him being worth tens or if not hundreds of millions of pounds in the end through the bravado character he's built. So, and again, I can only talk from people close to Andrew Tate, best friends and people I respect who have grown up with him and known him very well, who all speak very highly of him as a man. And what you don't get to hear is the people he's helped. People don't hear this. You know what I mean? So I know him. Obviously, I'm strongly opposed to his conversion to Islam. I believe it was a very silly move on his part. I believe he felt trapped. I felt trapped at times. I know that when you come under attack and censorship the way he did is the way I've experienced it myself. But he still had the money. So they couldn't stop him. Mm-hmm. He had the ability to continue.
I suppose the problem with the idea of him just being a character is the allegations around transportation of women and underage women and also some of his gloating, whether it's real or not, has been about underage like girls, hasn't it?
Well, I've seen some of the clips recently, yeah. Do I believe Andrew Tate? I don't believe. Do I believe that Panorama just done a hit piece on him? Yeah, I don't believe him. Simple. I don't believe Panorama in anything. No. Because I've done my own Panodrama documentary where I covertly recorded Panorama planning and telling people what to say about me in interviews. I didn't just, and there's a secretive organisation who have been pivotal in Andrew Tate's attempted takedown called Hope Not Hate. I know that they pay people tens of thousands of pounds. They liaise between the media and the person. So they'll go give a girl 20 grand. Then they'll line up BBC to interview the girl. So BBC's hands are clean. They haven't paid anyone.
The problem is you've got two people here, Panorama, who might make things up, but also Andrew Tate, who makes things up as well. So we don't know who to believe. As for Hope Not Hate, I got a line they said about you, which I thought you'd find fun. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, but it does sum up the hypocrisy here. It's insane. While Lennon, which is your real name, has always been racist, just don't need any...
No facts, no evidence, no quotes.
Has always been racist, just done, that's it. He has overwhelmingly focused on Islamophobia and sought to avoid explicit and overt racism. So sought to avoid explicit and overt racism.
So hasn't been racist, but we know what he thinks.
What the arrogance you'd have to write that about somebody. I can't believe it. I would never write something like that.
So Nick Lowles, have you watched my Hope Not Hate expose documentary?
I want to say yes, but I haven't.
It's great.
Okay, everyone should watch it.
So I got covert recordings of people who were given drugs by Hope Not Hate. I got covert recordings of people who were sexually assaulted by Hope Not Hate and their members. Hope Not Hate are the cabal and the deep state. So when you think of these deep, seedy, dark organisations who manipulate and intimidate and blackmail, that's Hope Not Hate. Yeah? So So Nick Lowles, what he does is they say a source. So any newspapers that quote things against me, it's a source says. Do you know what one of their sources was? Which I confront Nick Lowles on. The Gambino gang in Luton. I talk about, there's a Gambino gang in Luton. They're called the Gambinos. Yeah? They're a Pakistani mob, about 100 of them. Right? All heroin dealers and all groomers and rapists and child groomers and prostitutes. Yeah? That's their gang. You can read about them in national newspapers if you want. I've clashed with that gang because in 2004 I named them in a leaflet and I confronted again their gang. Yeah, I called them out. You're dealing heroin, scumbags in our town. Yeah, you're abusing girls in our town. Right? So we, as young football hooligans, clashed with these gangs. Okay, as non-Muslim group who were willing to confront them and their criminality and their destruction of our town. So so Nick Lowles travelled to Luton. He sat down with the Gambinos, who are heroin dealing, drug funding, Taliban supporting gangs. Yeah, all in the national newspapers. They were the source. So then he sits them down, so he covers himself legally. So Hope Not Hate, this is what they do. They sit down with groups like that and say, tell us about Tommy Robinson. And then they sit and say, he done this, he done that, he done that. And then they say, a source close to Robinson from his hometown says, a dealing Pakistani mob, you mug. That's your source of information. Or your source of information is someone you've paid. So I done a documentary showing all this. And when I confronted Nick Lowles, he admitted it. Watch the footage.
Wow.
I questioned him. He said, yes, so at least I'm not a drug dealer. It's like,
brilliant.
What? And then he says, I said, Nick, you create sources. Then the mainstream media who you work with. Now, the head of it, Nick Lowles. So an example of this is the recent riots. Hope Not Hate, the head of Hope Not Hate and all the chairs of it are the Labour government. No joke. Yeah. Look it up yourself, right? So Hope Not Hate come out and make a statement, Nick Lowles does, saying Muslim women are being attacked with acid. Now, the purpose of this, and we've got video proof we'll show you in our documentary, Muslims took to the streets violently with weapons, quoting what Nick Lowles has said. They're attacking our women with acid. Yeah? So misinformation from a Labour government NGO are lying to the Muslim community of the country, get them all up, get them rolled out, get them on the streets. Yeah. Then they pushed that there was 100 far-right racist riots planned. They admit, I've got Nick Lowles admitting it. The next day it was all a hoax. But they done it. They rallied the Muslims with the false pretense that the English Defence League, which ended 10 years prior, there hasn't been a group. It's a very good strategic move by Labour and Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
Get the Muslims
to give
out.
them an excuse to impinge on free speech.
Get them all out on the street, get them all violent, get them all out, and then clamp down. Yeah. And then they clamp down, video the clamp down, scare the public, can't say this. The Muslims come out mob-handed. Don't arrest the Muslims because they haven't. There's been, you've seen all these dawn raids and televised court cases for people who said hurty words on Facebook. Where's the dawn raids and the televised things for the Manchester Muslims who attacked the police in the airport who still haven't faced prosecution? What about Hare Hills and the Romanians who went and burned buses and rioted? Where's the televised operation on that? But the purpose of all of this is where the tools of a totalitarian state are the judiciary, the media. They use them as weapons. There's a facade, so you think you have a justice system. And when they want to turn it on against someone, like they're going to do against me when I leave, when I get back to England, I currently face 4 years in prison for a film, yeah? This is the weapon of the state. This is them ending free speech, attacking free speech, intimidating the public. That was the purpose of what they've done over the last 4 weeks, to intimidate the public into silence. So, but Nick Lowles, they're nicking people for misinformation, for saying the man who killed in Southport was a Muslim. What about Nick Lowles, who said that women were getting attacked with acid? Just made it up. And you used that and pumped it around the country. What about Nick Lowles, who said that there was 100 planned far-right riots and then admitted he hoaxed it? It was all a hoax. And then the front page of the newspaper, so this was to end the tensions, the front page of every newspaper was the same. So after these 100 riots, there was no planned riot. There was one planned demonstration from the public that day, and it was in Aldershot, and it ran totally peaceful. But they told everyone there was 100 riots. Do you know, when I say they, this is the operation coming from the top down. The NHS, doctors, surgery, schools, all emailed, every email they've got saying, be careful tonight, the far right are out. There was no far right. This is total misinformation. These laws they're bringing in for misinformation, Keir Starmer needs to go jail. He needs to go jail for the misinformation he gave on the vaccine. Promotion of a vaccine which he knew nothing about. You told people to take it. Yeah, he needs to go jail. He needs to go jail for lying about the far right, the preconceived far right, the riots of the English Defence League. There is no English Defence League.
It's something Hitler did actually with the Reichstag building. Was put on fire, and it was believed it was a communist who did it or something like that.
Them.
And so, well, we don't even know. No one really knows, but they executed in the end this communist guy, who they said it was that person. But they started saying, communists everywhere, communists. Oh no, we've got to start after this fire. We've got to now start introducing hate speech laws and things like that, which is what's happened now. But instead of the communists, it's the far right. It's the bogeyman.
The imaginary far right.
Yeah.
The imaginary far right.
I know. Wait, look, you're in trouble now for what? Am I right in saying it's because it's all so complicated, these things? Is it about it was a Muslim kid who got beaten up at school, and then did you say that he was actually a wrong one, the Muslim kid? I'm just thinking now we're going to be able to even show this, like you're talking about it now.
You can, yeah. Like, I'm going to jail for it anyway.
Yeah, but I don't want to go for jail for it.
But you won't. You're not under an injunction. So my breach of injunction, which is this, you know what I mean? It's like, how can I go to jail for making a film that's factually correct?
This film directed by Richard Grannon. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, Richard Grannon's dirty hands, yeah. I only done what Richard told me to do.
Yeah, does any lawyers go straight to Richard?
Richard said do it.
You had a fight with a Nazi, didn't you?
So I had the English Defence League. When we set it up, as I said, we set it up off of the ethos of my mindset in Luton. Everyone's welcome. Everyone. Yeah? Anyone was welcome. So blacks, gays, even Muslims. We had a Jewish division, a Hindu division, a Sikh division, a lesbian and gay division. We had, what sort of far right organisation is this? Yeah? They just tried to blanket it as far right. You couldn't get less far right. Our core problem, and I didn't even want to sway into immigration, if I'm honest, when I had the English Defence League. People were trying to push it certain ways. The BNP tried to infiltrate. We had murders, of them trying to sway things, and I'll talk through that. I miss weddings, I miss family events. My life become the English Defence League. I becoming a great leader to that movement. I made it a worldwide name, But I was a bad husband, a bad father, a bad son, probably, at that time, because my life took over.
Activism.
So, activism is impossible. I try and say to people now, when you get involved in this, you got to cut. In the end, I learned, don't talk about it. If my kids were here or I was in the family home and I want to talk about my politics, I go for a walk now. Yeah. I don't want it to consume their lives. And I didn't at first. I'd sit with my ex-wife and I'd be on the computer the whole time. English Defence League, we're doing this.
Poor woman.
Yeah, I know. She wants to be a mum and a wife. And it just took over my life. And as it took over my life, I missed all these events. And then I went on a stag do and I went to Estonia. And it was a lad from Cambridge, a football lad from Cambridge who I've been good friends with for years. Went on a stag do and then I was getting all these phone calls. We had a demonstration. You can find this video. We had a demonstration and it was in Walsall. We had a demonstration in Walsall, and it's the first one I wasn't going to be at. And then my phone was going, man, you've got to come. You've got to be there. Yeah, I'm on a stag do. I'm away. Yeah, you've got to be there. Because the BNP, what they'd done is our compare was a lad called Tony. So he used to compare each demonstration. They'd got into him. Yeah, and they'd worked their way into regional organisers. So as I've got 12 regional organisers in the English Defence League. I know the organisation. I know the lads that are turning up. We're just normal lads, not far right, not ideologically far right, not FNATs, not ethno-nationalists. Ethno-nationalists just want everyone to be white, They want rid of every immigrant, That's not what the English Defence League was. But all of a sudden, I've got these calls from certain regional organisers, including our Compare, to have an alliance with the BNP. We need an alliance with the BNP. And it was coming from everywhere. I think that's right. And at the time, I didn't know that our Compare was in cahoots with Griffin. I didn't know that they'd infiltrated the movement. I didn't know. So I then fly back. I leave the SAGTA. I said, lads, I've got to go back. The movement's imploding. And that's where it took over your life. We had divisions, I'd say government interference in the movement would try and divide the North, the South, and the Midlands. So that I'd be the one person that was trying to hold it all together and the only person that was respected enough to hold it together. So I had to be there all the time. And as they're calling for an alliance with the BNP, I travel back and watch this video. I stand up. I say, right, you're here. You're my audience. You are the English Defence League. And I made the decision, if it would have gone the wrong way, I'd have left there and then on stage. I said, I want to ask you, you are the movement. I want to ask you some questions now. And I want you to show your hands so I know what I'm looking at. Who here wants an alliance with the British National Party? Put your hands up. No one put their hands up. And I looked at the Compare because I'd known by this point what he was doing. I know what the regional organiser was doing. I said, why the f*** am I getting asked about the BNP? Why am I getting asked to join up with an organisation I actually despise, now, with what they are? Why am I getting asked? And I said, do you know why I'm happy you answered that question? Because you see, under BNP, he couldn't join. He couldn't join. He couldn't join. We had lots of blacks and Asians in our movement. Mm-hmm. But then from that, I then had to get rid of the Compare. I had to remove the regional organisers. And as I removed these groups throughout the movement, I removed them and they'd leave the English Defence League because I'd kick them out, but then they'd set up their own groups. So you had the English Defence League in the centre, say here. And within 2 years, all the people I'd kicked out in their areas, they'd formed the Northwest Infidels, the Northeast Infidels, the Southeast. So different areas, they couldn't come to our demos, but they wanted to influence. So they always wanted us to talk against different issues. And I was like, we're about Islam, that's it. That's all we're about. Is Islam, and stopping Islamisation of Great Britain. But then these groups, so before, that was one instant where, with infiltration, but I was doing a Channel 4 documentary. It's called Proud and Prejudice. I let myself down massively. I was young. I let myself down because I got drunk. I'm a fucking nightmare. I'm drunk. So I'm young. I'm leading the English Defence League. These lads approached me from Channel 4 and they said, we want to do a documentary. Can we spend a year with you? So I said, yeah, come and see what we're about. I'll let you in. And the lad's name was Tom Costello. Tom, if you're watching this, I'm still disappointed, Jeff. The lad's name was Tom Costello. So I let them in. I met them and the other lad died. He was a producer. He was a nice lad as well. I liked him. Tom went to Oxford University, got the best possible grades you can get. Yeah. Privately educated kid, very wealthy background. So Tom, I met him. I said, I'll bring you into my life. Yeah, I'm going to bring you totally in. I'm going to open you up. And I done things to bring him in. So I remember that when he come and spent time in our estate, everyone's meeting each other. There's blacks, there's Asians. We're all together. We're going in and out of the shops. He sat down in the pub. He said, I've never seen this. He said, what? He goes, you all know each other. Everywhere you go, everyone's embracing each other. He goes, I've never had that. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, where I live, I go to private school. So I don't know all the people in the community because I just get the lift to school and I don't hang around on the streets and I'm just private. And then when I've left there, I've gone to university. So I don't know anyone in that city either. And then I said, okay, so you've never had a community. That's what you're saying. You've never had a sense of community. Do you understand, Tom, why when a girl from here is raped, do you understand why we all feel it? It affects all of us. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's not a little number or a digit. It's Sarah's daughter. Yeah. Or it's a girl we know. It's a girl from school. It's a girl we've hung around with. So do you understand that? And then what I done with him, I rang up some Pakistani boys. Bingo, little gangster wannabe lad, but I was friends with him growing up. So I rang him up. I said, all right, bruv. And this when I'm leading the English Defence League, at the height of the English Defence League. He goes, yeah, what's going on? I goes, I'm just at Burden Bush. Where are you? He goes, I'm passing now. I go, swing in. And I got in the car and I introduced him as my posh little cousin. So I get in the car, I said, Tom, this is my posh little cousin, Tom. And we sit with these three Pakistanis, they're drug dealers, yeah, but we sit and we have a laugh and I'm chatting to them. We sit in the car for an hour. I said, this is my posh cousin from out of town. He's just with me for the weekend. We all have a laugh. They get out of the car, they drive off. I said, so do you understand now as a journalist? Yeah? I don't hate them for being Pakistani. I don't hate them for being Muslim, right? But there's a problem and I'm not going to talk about it. And as you can see, they don't hate me. Yeah, I'm the leader of the English Defence League. They're all chilling with me. I remember sitting in cars with Pakistani boys when I'm leading the EDL, who are mates, and police car pulled up and see me with trying to torch in, and they think I've been kidnapped or something. I'm like, mate, we're mates. They all get out, we're having a laugh. I said, we know each other. We went to school together.
So it must frustrate you to no end that I think you're even more than the Islam or anything. I think you're known as just racist.
Yeah, totally.
Tommy Robinson, racist.
Do you know how frustrating it is?
And I couldn't find pretty much anything. I couldn't find anything.
Other than banter or humour amongst friends again. Do you know how frustrating it is to have? I've done it again. I'll give you. Well, this Tom Costello lad, when we done the documentary, so I didn't know. They were filming me for a year, but they were filming with the Muslim radical Saif al-Islam, Sword of Islam. He's the leader of the terrorist organisation. He's in Luton. So it was called Proud and Prejudiced. So whilst I thought they were just following us, they were following them and they were putting us head to head in the film, which they didn't tell me. Right. And they're wankers. So I've got a friend whose sister reviews films. So before the documentary come out, I got to watch the documentary. So I've watched the documentary and I've rang him. It's all right, Tom. So in that documentary, they told me at the start, there's no voiceover. Yeah. We're just showing your story. We're going to follow you. I invited this prick to my wedding. Yeah.
Wow.
I liked him. Okay. I liked him. I invited him to my wedding. And then the documentary comes out. Now I've got my hood. I'm pissed up in town. Yeah. I've got my hood up and I've got goggles on. It's a CP company coat. And I said, ribbit. Yeah. I was pissed up, ribbit. And what they done? They put Breivik. And then in the voiceover, yeah. So I rang him up. I said,
for anyone who doesn't know,
Breivik killed 60 people, 50 people in Norway in a terrorist attack that they tried to link to us, the English Defence League.
Yeah. A horrific thing, right? Well, you would agree that was a horrific.
Horrific if you watch the documentary on it.
No.
Oh man, watch it, bruv.
About Breivik.
About what he'd done and about
islands.
the families and the people who were hiding, the kids that were hiding, and tells the story of it
was Muslim kids that were killed.
No, it weren't Muslim kids.
Oh, was it not?
No, he targeted the politicians' kids. So basically,
right.
And you see that
Sorry,
island, there's a lot more to what the story than is told. You see the island where he hit? Well, Norway give that island to Hamas. They let Hamas use the island to influence them in politics. They give it to a fucking terrorist group. Yeah, they let them fly their terrorists in. But there was a lot more to that. But what he done is, his words, not mine. I don't condone it. He was a monster. Yeah, but what he done is he blames the politicians for letting the migrants in, and the Somalians, the Islamization of his country. He blamed on the politicians. Now there's a camp where all the politicians and the wealthy send their kids, which is the equivalent of the Labour Party. It's their next generation of leaders.
That's right.
He targeted that camp.
Right.
These were kids. Innocent kids, and he hunted them down and he shot them. He planned it for 8 years, 10 years. Now, the media again omit the truth. They omit things. So they said he was an admirer of the English Defence League. But I at the time, obviously, he done that a day before my wedding. I remember it. He done it a day before my wedding, and I was like, fuck, man. And it was out everywhere, all over the world, that he had meetings in the UK. Yeah. And they're trying to put it on me, and I'm thinking, I don't know this guy, right? And then in his manifesto, he said the English Defence League are naive fools. But he talked about, it took him 2 years to write his manifesto. So in the start, when we started our movement, no one knows who we are. We're on the streets. He spoke well of us. By the end of it, he called us race traitors and said that we are naive fools who think democracy can solve these problems. And we're, and the only way to solve it is violence. That was his thing. But the media left all that bit out and just said, he talked well with Tommy Robinson and the English Defence League, and he was radicalised by us. That's what they pretty much tried to say. Ignored the fact that he was radicalised by the Islamisation of his own country and his government's failures.
What did this fella Tom say when you confronted him?
I said, Tom, and he's obviously thinking, how the f*** do you know that? The film ain't out.
Yeah.
I said, Tom, and then Tom was talking at you said the Tate Gallery earlier, something about Tate. He was talking at the British Film Institute in London.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he's talking, and I see, this is after the documentary comes out. So I fell out of him. Before that, I was still talking to him, but I said, you bastards. He goes, do you know what it is? Channel 4 just wouldn't put it out. You come across too well. So you come across too well. So they had to put voiceovers in. They had to cut and edit this. They had to give a slant. They had to. He goes, because it couldn't go out.
This is the problem with the mainstream media. And this is, sorry to cut you there, because I get so wound up by this. And I understand how it happens, because it's not probably, it's not Tom's fault from what you've told me so necessarily. It's the groupthink of it. And there's a whole battle right now, because obviously I'm implicated in the whole thing going on right now, influencers versus the mainstream media, that Keir Starmer, attacking Elon Musk and all of these things. And there are a lot of things the mainstream media has that we don't. They have duty of care. They have lawyers that can check everything and make sure, and that's something we should have, and we can't afford to do those kinds of things. However, they have this huge groupthink where if anything is slightly not what's expected, nobody in that group is going to stand up and say,
hold on,
guys.
He's all right. He's all right.
Yeah, no one
That's
will
what
do that.
Tom should have said. Well, actually, he's all right.
Yeah, but
he's not racist. And
but he would have lost his place or whatever. They would have looked down on him.
he won awards for this film. So this film,
Yeah.
so I see that Tom Costello has an evening at the British Film Institute,
Okay.
talking about his time with the English Defence League. So I think, okay. So I booked 2 tickets and I went with my Ghanaian mate and I put a burqa on, a full niqab. Yeah?
Shut up.
I swear to God, I fully niqabbed
What
up.
are you talking about?
I swear
Have
to
you got
God.
a picture?
Yeah, there's a picture in my book. The
All right.
story's in my book.
Send it to us later. We'll pop it in.
Yeah, it's in there. And do you know what? We met up at Selfridges. I put this fully niqab on and I'm in the car. My mate's a black Ghanaian lad and I'm in the car and we're in a taxi. And as I'm sitting and people look at me in the taxi, I'm like, and they're looking so shocked. I'm going, you get the car next to me.
We need to do a series of you dressing up in every religious garb and different things and just saying wankers to people.
I've done
in
the
car.
rabbi as well too. But I've done so I dressed up in a niqab and I've gone walking straight in with my ticket with my mate and we're sat 3 rows back. So I'm sitting in this room full of people. The whole discussion is Tommy Robinson. Yeah? He's getting interviewed. I'd already said to my mate, what I want you to ask him is, was Tommy racist? Yeah. Get that question into him. Yeah. So we're sitting there and he's standing up and he's talking about my mate, Jim McDade. Now, Jim, unfortunately, ended up becoming homeless. He's ex-forces. Jim was an ex-paratrooper. But he said that Jim always had a tool on him, a gun. Yeah, this is what he's telling this crowd. So he's implying to this crowd that he's gone undercover into the English Defence League, which was dangerous. It's like, I get it. I get what he was doing. He was selling the work he's done with bullshit, flouring it all up, yeah? Jim has never had a gun on him. Right, Jim's a tough lad, but Jim was by my side the whole way through it. But he never had weapons on him or guns. So he's implying all this story and he's bigging it all up and he's talking about, what was it like? And we spent all this time and we went to demonstrations. And as he's doing that, my mate puts his hand up and says, so you got to know Tommy? He says, yeah. He goes, I just want one simple answer. Was he a racist? And he says, yes. And I just went, boom.
Did you?
Yeah. And the whole room just went, what the fuck? I said, first off, do we think we should ban the niqab? Yeah. Okay. I've been sitting here listening to everything you're saying for the last hour. Yeah. And he was just like, Tommy, can we talk outside? I said, no, don't talk outside. Talk here. You just said I'm a racist. You know I'm not a racist, Tom. You spent time with me. You've met my family. You've met my friends. You've met my loved ones. You've met my kids. You've met everyone. You know who I am. Yeah, and it pissed me off. If it had said, yes, he's strongly opposed to Islam, but he sat there and then he was like, oh, let's talk outside. And security with it there. And they said, when you walked in, I knew it was a man. That's what security said. I said, yeah, why didn't you say something then? Too scared to say something, weren't you? Because it's a niqab.
Yeah.
So you know a man's wearing a niqab, walking into an event, you know it, but you're too scared to say anything.
Good thing you're not as tall as me, though.
Yeah, I looked like a little short fat bird, didn't I? I wore gloves and everything. I wore the full lot, man.
Yeah. You don't want hairy palms or
I
whatever.
wore the full lot. And even my mate, when he went in to buy it, like, we were having a laugh about it. But and then Tom, and bearing in mind what he'd seen, so in the first time I met Tom and the Channel 4 lads, I had a litre bottle of vodka, and I filled it up with water. And I know what these journalists expect of who I am. I'm leading the English Defence League. So I've gone in the cafe, the coach is there, we've got a 50 or 60 seater going to Blackburn for a demonstration. Probably our 3rd or 4th demo. It was when everything was going big, yeah? So I've walked in, I've got a paper bottle, I've gone in, it's a litre bottle of vodka, but it's water, right? I've walked out and the 2 new journalists are standing there and I necked the water and I fucked the bottle. I said, it's f***ing demo day, yeah? And all the lads like, and I went over and shook both their hands. I said, "All right, lads, how you doing?" I said, "My name's Tommy, but I'm just taking," and I was just taking the piss. But we get, and you can see this is on their documentary. Not me necking the vodka, but we get on the coach and they say, "What's the plan today?" I said, "I'm kicking it all off today. It's all kicking off." They said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Groups have tried to align themselves inside our movement. I know their names. They're the North East Infidels. I know who they are. They're the North West Infidels. They've not done enough to be kicked out publicly, but they are recruiting for the far right within our movement and our crowd. Yeah. So today we're going to put it to bed." You say, "How are you going to put it to bed?" I said, "I'll show you when I get there." So I get up on stage and I call my mate up, Gurmit Singh. Gurmit Singh done more to break race barriers than anyone else. Gurmit Singh was a Sikh leader of the English Defence League, a great lad as well. I still hold him as a dear friend. Yeah? He's a brilliant lad, brilliant personality. And I've got Gurmit up on stage. I said, "Come here," and I hold his hand. I said, if you're in this audience and you don't like what you can see here, yeah? And I had to do this. Essentially, we'd ask the police, if anyone turns up Dr. Martin bomber jackets, don't let them in. If you've got intelligence at their National Front and they're Nazis, don't let them in, or it's going to come to clashes. So I had to make the decision. I'm the leader of a street protest movement. Remember, I weren't a politician. Yeah? I'm the leader of a street pressure movement of lads, really, young lads. And we needed this divide. So I called Gurmit up and then I said, right, if you don't like what you see, this is us. You know, this is my England, yeah? This is what we're standing for. If you are opposed to this, you're in the wrong crowd, lads, yeah? I said, I'm now going to read your names out. And I said, because I've been following you, yeah? So North East Infidels, Alan, can I mention his name? Alan Smith, show yourself, yeah? You racist little bastard. So I went through their N-word this, N-word that. They're going, that's totally against what I've been brought up with. So I said, show yourself. And then you see a big crowd. And it's on the documentary. You see a load of them coming. And they've all got Combat 18 t-shirts on, skull and crossbones. So as I come off the stage, these lads are from Newcastle. So I come off the stage and my intention was to knock them out on camera in front of the world. I thought, we're going to town. And I told all the lads, we're fighting these lot today, yeah? We're going to kick...
You wanted to show on the documentary that you were fighting against racists.
I wasn't bothered about the documentary. Yeah. I wanted to kick these fuckers out of our movement. It's our movement, yeah? It's what we stand for. You lot, go, right? But to me, you're the enemy. The same way these jihadists are the enemy. You're opposite sides of the same coin. You're the same shit. You're going today, yeah, and we're kicking off because they hadn't done enough. So we'd seen them looking at them, thinking first of all like the Welsh Defence League, they come dressed normally like lads. 1 demo, 2 demo, 3 demo. They're all in Dr. Martens and bomber jackets. They're then wearing braces. They're then full on neo-Nazis. But that we learned, again, I always say, purity comes with time. You've got to give an organisation, every time we're on the street saying we're not racist, we want normal people, the media are telling everyone they are Nazis, so they're advertising our organisation to Nazis. These scumbags, if they hold their own demonstration, will get 20 idiots, yeah? But they want to be in amongst thousands. And then they want to recruit off the thousands. So I stood up on stage, held his hand, I come off the stage, and the first lad there was from Newcastle, who are you, Alan, whack. I cleaned him out, yeah? I got done for it. I cleaned him out. Then we come off and they're all trying to get to us. And it's all the crowd's going mad. And we come to the coaches. I come back by the coaches and there's about 30 of them waiting. They've got corkscrews in their hands. And there's pictures of all this. It goes off. We fighting like fuck, yeah? The Channel 4, this posh kid who lives in a house with 7 other people. One's a one was shagging one of the people in the house was shagging the Prime Minister of Pakistan, yeah? It's also up. But they live this mad little life, which is so far detached from the life I live. Yeah. So, but he was really nice. Tom was I really liked him, the kid. And then and they sit down afterwards. We all get on the coach. Everyone's got blood on them. Everyone's battered. Everyone's like, f***ing hell. And Tom's white. He's never seen probably anyone get punched. Tom's sitting there and he's just white. He goes, I can't believe it. I said, what? He said, you're fighting the far right. He goes, no one I know is going to believe this. Yeah. But do you know how the media portrayed that? English Defence League fight each other. That's what the headlines were. There was trouble on the streets and it's the English Defence League fighting each other. Now that decision to do that day was the best decision I made for the movement because I then went home and made a video. I said, well, you lot, it's on. Yeah. You see our next demo, it's on. Every time we see you, it's on. Yeah. Right? Because we weren't, as I said, we weren't polished politicians. We weren't anything. We weren't trying to be anyone we weren't. We were young lads, most of them up for it. And we wanted a protest against Islam and the Islamisation of Britain. And I made that video and one of the lads said, what was his name? Stevie Carroll? One of the lads, again from Newcastle, I made a video saying, listen, you've come to our demonstrations, it's all gone off today. Yeah. If you come again, it's going off every time, but we're now mobilising all the groups because we had a good relationship with the West Midlands. The West Midlands EDL, lads from Lanesfield, same as us. There was hundreds of us, yeah, that would have been up for fighting the Nazis if they were coming. So then I made a video saying, if any of you want it, just come to Luton. Yeah, I'm not hiding. We're not hiding from you. So we called it on Blood and Honour. I called it on Blood and Honour. When I called it on with the jihadists, we called it on with the far right at the same time. And I called it on, and then I made a video saying, I'm 5'6", I'm short, I'm fat, I'm a little white. If you've got a problem, travel to Luton. Yeah, I'm not going to hide from you. So come on down. And then the next week I go out and I'm in London and I get a phone call from the landlord of Luton's Football Hooligan pub and said, there's a Newcastle lad in here looking for you. I said, all right, what's he want? He said he's seen your video, he's come down. Stevie Capp. So I said, all right, sound, I'm coming back. So I come back from London I've walked into the pub in town, and I've walked in, and this lad's from Newcastle. He's come on his own from Newcastle. Yeah, he said, I watched your video, and I said, no, I was pissed off, so I'll come down to confront you. Basically, he goes, now I'm here. I'm not as angry. I said, get out the back of the pub. And me and him went out the back of the pub and went at it. I pulled a whitey. What
does that mean?
I was that unfit. I battered him.
Yeah.
I won. I shook his hand after. But I won the fight with him. But afterwards, once it all calmed down, I pulled a whitey, man. I was that unfit. I was like exhausted.
Do you have regrets about some of the violence, maybe, like and things, and some of the ways you've gone about things when you were younger that maybe helped the mainstream to give this false image of you?
But for me, growing up where I grew up, that was all normal. A fight's normal. Now, as an adult, as a 41-year-old father of 3 kids, that's not normal. Yeah, what I thought was normal growing up in Luton, behaviour I thought was normal, the way to deal with problems that I thought was normal. Luton's a very violent. It's been voted the worst town in Britain. It's got violence levels that put areas of London to shame. I think yesterday 3 people were shot dead in Marsh Farm, which is where Andrew Tate's from. So, I regret? If I hadn't done that against the Nazis, there wouldn't have been a divide. And this is why I left the English Defence League. So I'd done all this. We battled them. We got rid of them. We then reached a good crowd. After 2 years, we're in a good place. 3 years, we're in a good place. I go to all these groups I've kicked out. I then go to jail. I'm sent to prison. 2012? 3 years into the leadership of the EDL. I'm sent to prison. I come out of prison and I see all these groups have been at our demos with their flags. And I remember, I'm the face of the EDL. What was the EDL? It was my face. That's not me. You're not doing that shit in my name. So then I thought again, now I've got to kick more people out. Because whoever organised that demo and they've got to go. And then it just adds, each time, do you know all my time was spent battling, not battling Islam, what I should be talking about. Not my energy was consumed fighting the problems within the own movement.
The racists.
The far-right racists. That was what my time was done. So then each time I'd get an opportunity to discuss the topics I want to discuss, I'm sat on a news show and they're showing me some moron at an EDL demo shouting something stupid, or in an interview being a racist prick. And I've got to then defend that or answer it.
But what about your own behaviour? I mean, just there was a drug issue, wasn't there? And there was the fake passport. That was ballsy. Bloody hell.
Yeah, I don't see a problem. The drug issue, again, ever took drugs? Tell the truth.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your drug issue.
But I didn't get caught, mate, did I?
I was young, right? I was young, man. And again, at 41, what was I, 25? 25, got arrested in town, searched when I started the English Defence League.
Don't get me arrested as well, mate.
You know what I mean? Everyone watching this, people come so judgmental. It's like, look, I was a normal lad.
What was it just consuming, though? Or were you?
I was just consuming. I had a half a gram in my pocket.
Of the white stuff.
Yeah. And listen, do I regret that? Yes. Do I regret every part of it? Yes. Would I speak against any drug use? Yes. Even in the sense of, do you know, we become accustomed as working class lads to think this shit's normal. To think that every time you go out of a pub, you take drugs. You know, that's what everyone does. Sit back in kitchens without realising the negative effect. I realised the effect it had on my life. I realised the problems it caused my life, and that is not normal. And that if you want to feel good and you want to succeed, you feel so much fresher being fresh, being alcohol free as well. Like I didn't used to. It come to a point. Someone described the English Defence League as a drinking club with a website, because at times it was. It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
But what about that passport thing? Okay, I ask a lot of guests this, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but that's a very risky thing to do. You must have been on the plane going, bloody hell, they're going to let me in. I'm using a fake passport. Was it to get into Canada or America?
No, what I've done. So we started the English Defence League. I've been to America 3 years in a row before this. I then land, and we're on drinking on the park. Again, drink. We're on drinking on the airplane with the air hostesses, yeah, and they're giving us all free drink. We said we're going to here for September 11th. That's what we're going there for, and we're running this group called the EDL, yeah, and we're in every town and city. It's blown up. It's a phenomenon. We're talking to them all. And I said, but the authorities are really trying to, because they'd raided me 3 times in the first 6 months. I said, they're really trying to stop us. They're really trying to shut us down. And then the doors open for the plane. There's 2 cops with guns. And the air hostess looked at me. I looked. I said, I told you. Yeah, I told you.
God.
And then as I stepped off, they said, Mr. Lennon, who are you with? I said, I'm here on my own. And the worst part about it was I'd lent my two mates. I'd lent my two mates money to go, yeah? So I'm sitting thinking, this has cost me a fortune. You lot are going into New York. And I got detained. I got arrested and I got deported. And then I got basically told that the British had told them not to let me in, yeah?
Okay.
So this is 2010.
Okay.
So there was the 10-year anniversary of September the 11th. And I'd been invited by Pamela Geller, someone I'd admired. Pamela and Robert Spencer, I'd watched them for years. I'd learned a lot from them about Islam, about Islamization, about the Quran, about Muhammad. I'd looked to them as mentors, I guess, in my early years. And I got invited to give a talk at an event, a 10-year memorial for September the 11th. And stupidly, I've got a lad who grew up with me, who people confuse as me at times, which, as I said earlier, I'm pretty gutted about. He's a short, fat little lad. Yeah.
This is completely insane, by the way. This whole
Insane.
thing.
Andy, if you're watching this, right? So I'm at his house and I'm thinking, I still want to go. So I've took his passport. Again, I've gone out and partied at the time. And I've just made my way to the airport with my cousin. I said, I'm going JFK, you go to the other airport. I'll meet you in New York. Yeah. Crazily thinking, I'm going to get in, right? And I fly to New York. And when I was making these decisions, as I said, the English Defence League took over my life. When I actually get jailed for this and I needed prison, I needed it at this time. So I'm young, I'm leading the biggest street. I'm gone from 6 months before. In those first 6 months, the police froze my assets, dawn raided me, locked my accounts, froze my businesses. I had 2 companies. They forced me into the path I was in because I had nothing else. I wasn't allowed to work. I wasn't allowed to earn money. I was under this legislation that they brought in to deal with terrorists, which was called a financial restraining order. I was only allowed £250 a week to live on. They'd done all this to try and stop it at the start, but rather than stop me, it pushed me into it because I couldn't go to work. I couldn't earn money. You've closed my company. What am I doing now? Well, I'm leading EDL. So you made that. I'd say if they hadn't took those actions in those early days, whilst I believed in what I believed in, I would never have become Tommy Robinson. I was using a different name. I was hiding my identity. I still wanted a good life. I was successful at that time in life. By the time I was 25, I was successful. I had businesses, properties. So I'm on the plane. I get, and then when they stop me, they do a retina scanner. Yeah, and fingerprints. I'm like, well, this ain't going to work. So I'm not Andrew McMaster, am I? So as they do the retina scanner, the geezer looks at me, but he doesn't notify. He doesn't let on that he knows I'm not who I'm saying I am, but I know he knows I'm not because I was here last year. Yeah? So then he puts my passport and I look like on a folder. He goes, "That's your lot, just over there, son." And that's where I was.
It's an American though.
It's American at the counter,
just over there.
Just over there. And where he told me to go was, well, I got nicked the year before. That's where you go. Yeah? So I was like, okay, Sam. So as I start walking towards that thing, I just go.
You ran?
Yeah, I'm out of there. I get out. I'm gone. I'm in New York. Yeah? I swear to God, I get out of the airport. I turn up at the other airport. I then get in a taxi. Do you know the taxi driver? This is mad because I'm in a taxi driver and I'm so late. I'm like, I'm in New York, bro. I'm in New York. I'm at the airport. I left my case. I'm in New York. I've got nothing, but I'm in New York. And what I'd done was to travel there, my passport, I changed to the name of Paul Harris, my own passport via Depot. So I had a passport in the name of Paul Harris and I had my friend's passport. So I booked 2 flights, one for Paul Harris, one for Andrew McMaster. So I left the country on my own passport. Yeah. And when I landed, I just switched the passport and used his.
Wow.
So I didn't break the law in England and I knew that. But I did expect to go in jail in America if I got caught. So when I looked at it, I thought, well, if I go to jail in America, it's going to bring our cause to big light, what we're doing. So and as I said, I always say, if you worry about consequence, you will never bring about change. I didn't worry about consequence. I thought, I'm doing it. Is it right what I'm doing? Yes. I wish someone would have come to Luton 30 years ago and told me, which is what my speech was in New York. I said, listen, I'm not telling you about what I've read. I was born in 1982 in Luton when there was one boss. There's now fucking 30. At the time, probably 25. There's now 40. But at the time, 25. I said, I'm going to tell you how that changes your town. You need to stop Islamic immigration. Mm-hmm. So I come and give a warning to America about what it's like growing up in a town dominated by Islam as an Englishman. Mm-hmm. So I went there to give that warning and I got out of the airport and I'm in the taxi and the taxi driver had a fight with Joe Calzaghe. He was one of the only people who put Joe Calzaghe down. So he's showing me all this. And his son was boxing for the American Olympic team as well. So I had this journey off this taxi driver on the way there. I'm waiting for my cousin to come out. Doors open. He's like, I said, bro, I'm here. I'm here, man. And then I went and gave my speech. And then I flew back to Ireland on Paul Harris's passport, which is me under a new name. So I flew back to Ireland. I'm driving on the M25 madly. So again, we were radicalising ourselves. Under the English Defence League, we tried the peaceful protest route. They clamped down on us. They come from everywhere. We then looked, and I found Abu Hamza, hook hand, had a £1.3 million house in London. He had 4 children, only one of them living with him. And we were on our way there. So we rented a van, a lorry, and we went in the back of a Luton lorry, about 50 of us. We're on the way there and we were going to video it, and we were sort of got to the point where, and we got 3 paedophile groomers addresses in Oxford. So we were going their houses as well. And we were going their houses to tell them, I was going to read a pre-prepared statement to Abu Hamza saying, you have 7 days to vacate this property. This property is for an English family and not a terrorist. You're a jihadist, you're the leader of a terrorist organisation. You shouldn't be here. You should be interned in our eyes. So we were at that stage where we didn't have weapons, we didn't have anything. We went there to video and message. We didn't go there to attack their houses. We went there to video and message. Same with the pedophiles. We're going to say, get these off the streets and all. Why are they out on bail? Why are they running around Oxford still? They've raped these kids. They've all now in prison. So we were in the lorry on the way there, and they shut the M25. There's a picture of this in my book, and we're all masked up in the lorry, and as the shutters go up, we're all like, right, when the doors open, run, right? There's 50 of us, right? And when the doors open, we all had red dots on us. We all had red dots on us, you know? And then I got arrested, and I got arrested that day. Now, Saif al-Islam, on the Proud and Prejudice documentary, punches me through the car window.
Wow.
On the documentary. So I don't know they're doing a documentary on him and me at the time, do I? I just think they're doing one on me. And as I'm driving through Berry Park with our documentary, he comes over to the car. What you got to say now? I said, Islam's fascist. It's violent. I don't like it. It's paedophilic. And then he whacks me through the car window. And then the morning that we're going to meet the lads at 8 a.m, I'm driving through Luton Town Centre to meet the lads. Saif al-Islam, who punched me through the car window. So I pull up the car, I jump out of the car, he runs. He fucking runs. Saif, Sword of Islam, yeah? Loves death more than we love life. He ran away, yeah, but I caught him. He ran away and on the CCTV, he goes and gives a statement to the police. So when they pull us over in the van, I think, right, I'm getting nicked for being in the van. But then they further arrest me on an assault against Saif al-Islam. So I'm arrested for a violent assault in Luton. And then I'm further arrested for passport. And I'm like, yeah. And then, so I was looking at that, I said, I'm gone. And then they take me to court and they remand me. Straight away, I'm remanded. I'm remanded into custody because it's a passport violation. So I can't be trusted to have bail, they said, because I've already showed that I will leave the country on another passport. So I'm in solitary confinement in HMP, start in Wandsworth, and then every 28 days, so you're only allowed to do 28 days in solitary confinement because of mental health. So after 28 days, they transferred me to Bedford. Then they transferred me to Woodhill. Then 28 days later, they put me back to Wandsworth. 28 days later, they took me to...
All solitary?
All solitary, yeah.
How was that?
I needed it. I needed it.
Right.
So I needed it. So at that time, as I said, my life became the English Defence League. I guess I was self-radicalising myself. But I was getting angrier and angrier. I was a young man. I was looking at the terrorism, looking at jihadists, finding out more about the grooming gangs around the country. I was furious, not knowing how best to address that. As I said, we wanted to address it by setting up an EDL sort of hit squad to tell the terrorists, you need to leave, which was bringing it into, a sectarian side of, and then, so when I'm then sat on solitary, and I knew then it's the first time I'd had to slow my life down, the first time I'd had to address where I was in life, what was I doing, what effect is this having on my family, where am I headed with this? Mm-hmm. And I sat down in there, and I needed to be there. And I knew I needed to be there.
I've got a good mate called Sean Atwood. You know of him?
I know Sean Atwood, yeah.
Been in prison. He was 5 years or so in Arizona. And I was having dinner with his family because he lives down the road just the other day with his parents. And I just thought, I need to ask this. And I said, guys, do you ever think Sean, who's like sitting and laughing with me all the time, do you think Sean might be a psychopath or on the spectrum? And they went, oh yeah. Sean is, but he's a nice one. This is parent. It was so funny. And I wondered, the stories you're telling, the way sort of the risk that you take, a little bit like Sean, do you think you might be on the psychopathy spectrum?
Am I a psychopath? I'm not stopping.
What does that mean?
It means I'm not stopping no matter what the cost.
But do you think, as in
But I don't think that means I'm a psychopath. I mean, it means I wholeheartedly believe in my cause. I wholeheartedly believe that this country is headed to conflict. I wholeheartedly believe that the Islamization of this nation is detrimental to the British people.
Do you get sad watching a sad film like where someone's dying in it or something? Do you cry? Do you cry in a film?
Yeah, I'm not a psychopath, but I have feelings. Yeah.
But yeah, Sean says he does as well. But then I'm pretty sure
You question it. No, I just believe terrorists shouldn't be on the streets of our country. Muslim gangs shouldn't be raping English girls in every town and city.
Yeah.
And I believe someone's got to confront them. And at that time, we confronted them. And our confrontation of them is what brought about the arrest of grooming gangs.
No, I agree. It's the risk taking with like the passport and stuff, and being able to survive solitary confinement. That takes like a sturdy.
It didn't affect me in 2011. It did, but it didn't affect me the way it did later years.
I would panic about that.
Yeah, I needed to be there. I knew I needed to be there at that time in my life. I needed to be there. I was sort of probably out of control in who I was. I'd become someone very different in those 2 years of leading the EDL. I'd had terrorist threats, terror plots, house attacked continuously, fire bombings, police raids, investigations, travelled 15 major cities with thousands of men. My life had gone mad, yeah? And I was doing as best I could to lead what I thought was the right decisions, didn't have a surround team to help me. It was just, right, we're going here, we're doing this. Right, they've done that, we're going here. So in that time, yeah, and when I went to jail, I knew I needed to be there at the start because I needed to slow down my life. I needed time to think. And as I said, when I come out of prison, I then see all these groups. And the BBC had contacted me to do a documentary work on a documentary. And as soon as she rang me, what was her name? Jin. She was a Scottish girl. I said, I'm leaving the English Defence League. Okay. I said, I'm pissed off. I've had enough. I'm leaving. Yeah. And then Lee Rigby got beheaded.
Oh yeah.
So I made the decision to leave. Okay. I told my family I'm leaving. Yeah. Lee Rigby got killed on my son's birthday. I remember I was sitting in my house.
This was for those who don't know, outside the UK.
Lee Rigby got beheaded. He was a soldier. He was at a Health Heroes thing on, going for his jog outside his army barracks. 2 converts pulled up. Now, the mad thing is, you see Michael Adebolajo. I'd made a video about Michael Adebolajo the year before. We were onto this group. This group weren't prescribed. They weren't a terrorist organisation. They made them a terrorist organisation because our tactics were to chase them. We turned up where they were. We turned up in vans. We turned up in the back and jumped out with balaclavas on. We were running after the terrorists to confront them because they'd abused us. It started when they attacked our troops in Luton. But our tactic, because they kept going on about the English Defence League tactics, I was like, our tactic is to go after these terrorists that you should be going after. Abu Hamza stand on the street in London in front of hundreds of Muslims, telling them to go to war with us, and you're standing watching. Right? We don't want this anymore. We want them gone. And then after a few years, they then prescribed them. But Michael Adebolajo, I made a video about him in Aylesbury the year before.
Is this one of the terrorists?
This was the main one who the other one was a bit of a doofus, but he was the brains and he was the intelligent one who led the attack on Lee Rigby. Right. He was the one who handed over the verses. He handed a woman 52 verses in the Quran. No one talks about this. He gave a woman in the street, he gave her a piece of paper, and it was the 52 verses in the Quran that instructed him to kill Lee Rigby.
Wow.
Yeah, no one talks about that. And then they portray him as mad, whereas he was following the scripture to the words. He'd done it to the word. But when he killed Lee Rigby, I remember sitting at home, and again, I was like, this hasn't just happened. Because remember, I sprung into my activism because they attacked the soldiers in Luton. I then was arrested when they burned poppies on our Remembrance Day. I was arrested then for jumping a fence I grabbed their ISIS flag, yeah? And I was charged for that. So we'd had a close alliance and admiration for our armed forces, and now one of them's been beheaded. And I remember sat at home and I said, I'm off. Like, it's my son's birthday and all. As I said, bad dad. But I said, and then stories started coming out in Woolwich that there was groups of Muslims on the streets screaming Allah Akbar, celebrating. So we turned up in Woolwich, probably 150 lads, balaclavas, lads were wearing balaclavas. Stupidly. And we turned up there, and I remember that, I still remember that day. And I remember then after that, I organised a walk for Lee. And it was the first, because we had a bit of a clash with Bedfordshire Police. And as we walked past, we done walks for Lee in 50 cities, where peacefully we walked through the city to lay flowers at the war memorials. I remember walking past Luton Police, and they all took their hats off as we walked past, as we went into the town. There was no confrontations in any of those towns and cities. 2 cities, Sheffield, the lads were stopped by Muslims from getting to the war memorial. And then we done a national rally there the next week with 1,000 men. instead of 100 men. But we were a pressure movement. And some of the things, as you said, some of the ways, if I could do it all again, I learned a lot. I don't regret the mistakes. I don't regret entering America. I don't regret the imprisonment. I needed it at that time in my life. I don't regret any of the mistakes I've made because they've helped me learn and become who I am now.
Listen, I've got one more question for you, but first, where can people help out? Where can they find you? Where can they follow you?
Well, thankfully, thanks to Elon Musk, which must actually really hurt. I actually take massive pride in this and enjoyment. Hope Not Hate have worked tirelessly with a kitty of millions of pounds to destroy our voice and our credibility, and we are more credible and louder than ever before. So the mainstream media, the biggest weapon that the establishment have, you haven't worked. It hasn't worked. People hate you, not us. You expect them to hate us. You've tried to make them hate us. They don't hate us. Yeah. They like us. They hate you. So I believe, where you can find me, and I currently face 4 years in prison. I will return to the UK. I'm holding a rally on the 26th of October. The purpose of that rally is to show the British public you have rights. It's your right to peacefully protest. It's your right to freedom of assembly, and it's your right to freedom of speech. They want to now create fear so you self-censor. Don't self-censor. They can't, do not let them win like this. Each one of those men who have been imprisoned unlawfully, they are political prisoners right now in Great Britain for their words. They were rightfully angry. We're going to show you in a documentary why. Come out on the 26th of October and have a joyful festival atmosphere to celebrate Britain, celebrate what Britain is, celebrate who we are. We are known, it's in our DNA to fight and resist tyranny. It's who we are. So whether that's tyranny coming from Adolf Hitler or whether it's tyranny coming from Keir Starmer, we will resist it, and we'll resist it peacefully in the most peaceful way. And do you know what a massive you that will send to the establishment is to be peaceful, put smiles on your faces. We've got music, we've got comedians, we've got a great film, and then 2 days later I'll go to jail. And when I come out of jail, I will continue with my work, my activism, my films with more credibility. So thank you, Keir Starmer, and thank you, the judge who sends me down, because you are literally waking more people up than I could ever dream of.
Who's a heretic you admire?
Who's a heretic I admire? I'll tell you who I admire. I admire my mum. I admire my mum. So my mum is the most... Do you know what? I got a voicemail about 3 weeks ago. If you could beep out the bits, yeah? If you could beep out the bits...
The names and stuff.
They have to beep out her swearing because she'll cry her eyes out.
Oh, gosh.
But she... we scored. Luton just scored, man.
Oh, congrats.
Yes, it's my little girl.
Your little girl scored for Luton?
That's my little girl. She's at Luton Millwall.
Oh, right.
It's my daughter.
Because that would have been something.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Who are they playing?
They're playing Millwall away.
Oh,
should be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Mum sent me. So when I left, obviously, the world's on me, I felt. Yeah. They've tracked me down on holiday.
So you send me that later. You send the message later.
I'll send it.
Yeah. Rather than play it. Have you got it?
Keep digging deep. Do not hand yourself over to them. Do not give up. I never give up. I never give up. Don't you ever give up. Do you understand? Ever. Dig deep. If you didn't win, you didn't win. But you don't give up and let them bloody have you. Right? So you cannot. You need to keep clear-headed. It's the best chance you have every time, right? Try not keep poking that bear too much, son. Do you know what I mean? What you like. But, yeah, good boy. Dig deep, dig deep. I mean, if I wasn't rough, I'd come out, Stephen, and just, do your washing and just be there. But I won't be able to come out at the moment. All right, son? Dig deep. Dig bloody deep, son. Do not let them win you mentally. Do you understand? Do not let them do it.
So I obviously left my family holiday, and then I had to start again in another new city, in another new country on my own.
Were you welling up there?
Yeah. That's for me, and because I was in a bad place again, because I'm continuously away on my own, like now. Right. Well, I'm in a nice place now. So.
You've got Richard Grannon.
We're going to go to us. Yeah, but that was so. Yeah, I say I admire my mum. So my mum has been like Mother Teresa. I remember my mum was a single parent when I was born with an abusive partner. We were in bad wives hostels, so she come from total poverty, one of 8 children, grew up in a 3-bedroom council house. When she come as Irish, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish, and she was her mum and dad were dead by the time she was 18, 19. She lived a difficult life, with no money. And then she met my godsend of a stepdad, of a father. But she experienced, I can remember even Daniel and Dean were my best friends. Daniel Grisette, a boy from Trinidad when I was a young boy. But my mum would secretly, when it comes to school trips, she'd put cash in an envelope and post it through the door to pay for their school trips. I remember my mum worked in a behavioural unit at school. I remember coming home at Christmas. It's only like coming home at Christmas and coming around for Christmas and there's a girl sat there. Who's this? She said, this is the girl's name. And so when a girl gets to 16 in school, they have to go into a hostel. If they're out of house, so from foster care, they go into a hostel. So my mum wouldn't let her go into a hostel. So my mum brought her home and kept her. and until she got a job, until she found her life, until she could support herself. So my mum is a woman, and that message there is because my mum's seen me go into dark places sometimes. And when my kids left and my family left, for me, that inspired me to, well, I'm going to put on another demo. I'm making a film now. I'm thinking I'm fighting back. Essentially, I'm better when I'm in a fight.
You're making her proud.
Well, she don't want me to do all this either. So that's mum saying, don't let them break you, because they're trying to mentally break me and destroy me, and they have done, and I'll now do 2 years on solitary confinement. Don't give up. My mum has had stage 4 cancer twice. Yeah, she's never give up.
Wow.
She's 4'11", little Irish lady. I remember laying in Winchester prison. My mum had a 12-hour operation that they didn't know if she was going to make it. And I was waiting for the priest to come and give me the info. It's the worst day I've ever had in my life. I remember crying my eyes out thinking what a bad son I've been and what worry I've put her through.
Man, well, she sounds like a wonderful lady.
She is, yeah.
Tommy, thank you. People, please do go and find out more. We'll put links below to Tommy's event and to his X account and all those things. Keep watching this channel. Hit that like button as well. Go check out Richard Grannon's several channels. What should we say? Strongest Argument? Yeah. Go check out The Strongest Argument as well. That's Richard Grannon's new channel. It's got an interview already up there with Tommy, which is a brilliant one. Maybe even better than this one. So go check that one out as well. And keep on watching all those things.